Welcome to the Hollywood Outsider, an award-winning weekly entertainment podcast available on your favorite podcast app, as well as at thehollywoodoutsider.com. This is our annual South by Southwest episode where we dive into one of the largest film festivals in the world, complete with reviews for over 30 film and episodic premieres. Let's get on with the show. My name is Aaron Peterson, and I'll be your host, and I'm joined today by my fellow host, Amanda Sink.
Hello, hello.
Hey. Today we are going to talk exclusively about the South by Southwest Film Festival, or South by as it's commonly known. What the festival is, how it works, and especially what movies we saw that you should keep an eye out for. And it should be noted this is also a music festival, an interactive festival, a comedy festival. There are a lot of things going on at this festival, but we're focused primarily on the film portion,
Which showcases just about every type of film you could imagine. It is one of the largest festivals in the country. They also offer keynote speakers, special sessions, panels with various parties in the industry. Usually they're in-person parties, online parties, not so fun, and even a trade show when it's live. But this year, everything was completely online. And I will say, at least, better than some other film festivals we attended that were online this year.
So you're not throwing shade, but, you know.
But shade.
But if you had shade, that means the sun might be dancing in another spot.
Yeah.
I'm trying to. Does that work? I don't think that works.
The sun is in Austin.
Now, you've been to the live one, and, you know, I went to the live one for years, and then last year we obviously had an emergency situation where they had to cancel the festival, and they did kind of a rush job for online, but it still worked to a degree. They had basically just screeners available for us. And then this year, they did it completely different. They went to 100% online. So how was this for you? Because you got 1 year of the live experience, so you know how fantastic that is.
Only one, yeah.
And then you got the year where you're just like, it's just disappointment. And it's nothing to do with them. It was just the time of what time.
It was literally the day before I think we were going to fly out that everything was canceled and they announced it. I mean, we knew the pandemic was approaching. So like we kind of had an idea and felt that it was going to close but then it started to hit America and it was like, so much for that.
No, I will disagree because Brian Williams, former host of the show, who's been to South by as well, like we had long-standing back and forth where we're like, there's no way they'd shut that down. It's too big. It can't go down. It's too big. We were wrong. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was really sad. I'm pretty sure I cried. I'm pretty sure you cried. But this year was an improvement.
Still crying, actually.
I actually liked the way that they did it this year, especially in comparison to last year, which, again, that was not their fault. They had like 3 days to put everything together.
I think they did pretty fantastic for the time frame they had.
Yeah, they did pretty good. This year, though, I was incredibly impressed with how well they pulled everything together. I genuinely, the only issue I had, and it is so minor I didn't even care, was one of the movies is not in English and I couldn't get subtitles on it, so I just didn't watch the movie. That was it. Everything else, you could watch it on your own time. The registration to get your tickets was super easy and awesome. Honestly, it was way easier to get your tickets this year than it was in person, for sure, to get registered for and secure your seat for certain movies. I managed to get a ticket to everything I wanted. It
was actually, typically, you do not get to see everything you want to see.
No,
because by the time you walk across town or catch a shuttle, they have a wonderful shuttle system that actually takes you to the theaters and whatnot. But once you get there, it's a, you know, sometimes it's a crapshoot. I mean, press gets certain options that make it a little easier for some films.
Oh, we get benefits. You can say it.
I don't like to say that, but you know what I'm saying. But there are many times where you can't get in to see things that you wanted to see. Here, I think pretty much everybody had the option as long as you were quick on the gun for the stuff you wanted. There was a few, the headliners, the specific headliner films were time allotted. You only had 6 hours to watch them. But everything else, I mean, you had 4 or 5 days to watch it. So as long as you don't sleep, you could pretty much get through everything. Or most of them.
Yeah.
But seriously, don't sleep.
It was nice because even though a film would premiere at a certain time, you didn't have to watch it at that time. So sometimes I would start a movie ahead of the film festival premiering one, and it might overlap with that movie. Well, then once I finish one, I can just hop on to the next. Like, it didn't matter. I could watch them at 2 a.m. I did do that a couple of times just because I couldn't sleep. So I was like, I'll just watch some South by movies. And you got on your own time to do it, which I think is exactly how they should be doing it when you're doing an online festival where people probably aren't going to take as much time off work to be able to go to this if they have other jobs or commitments or life things and everything. And when you're at home, you have to work with your family too. So you have to be able to manage, like, you're probably not going to be able to watch the Midnighters at 3:00 in the afternoon if you have kids who are coming home from school or something. So I really liked the way they did it. I think they did a nice job. Good for them on the way they handled their sponsorship marketing, because I actually watched, because it was so quick and it was kind of like a cute, catchy intro for all the movies. I watched all of the intros just because.
Yeah, I want some White Claw, like right now.
Right?
White Claw Mountain Dew. I'm like, I haven't wanted Mountain Dew in a long time, but I'm thirsty.
I was seriously thinking, like, I've never had hard seltzer. I've never had seltzer. Should I try it? I mean, what is this White Claw thing? I guess if South by says it's okay, then maybe I should give it a go.
It was very well done. In fact, I mean, I love the live event. It's literally my favorite film festival. But even doing it this way, I still think they really did a fantastic job. And I know everybody listening is probably like, well, just get to the movies. But we also want to talk about the experience. That's part of what we like to do here at the Old Hollywood Outsider when we do these episodes. So before we go through what movies or events you did see and your takeaways on them, take us through what the festival is and why it's so huge from a fan's perspective and why they should go next year when it will be live, the way I understand it.
So from a fan's perspective in live, and yes, they are feeling confident that this will be live in Austin next year. So it is magical and magnificent, mostly because there's so much going on and so much to do, and they tailor it for everybody's interest. So like, if you are coming to the festival and maybe you're just a big music geek, but you also like to watch movies, you can come in early, do part of the film festival, and then you can go to the music festival, and it's all very close to each other. It is so cool because you're sitting in a movie theater that's often like not your traditional movie theater, and you're among other people who are genuinely there because they care about the craft. They love movies. They love to see what these performers are going to put out. You get to see movies that sometimes will never be seen again by an audience because they maybe don't get picked up by distribution or, you know, whatever reason there might be. So you are among the few that might get to experience this movie and experience it in person, as some of them do just go straight to video on demand or something. And on top of that, if you're somebody who's like a big fan of celebrities or just think it's kind of cool to hang out in the general vicinity as them, which, I mean, regardless of who you are, it's always cool to just be like, oh, I'm just hanging out next to Charlize Theron and Boyz II Men is putting on a concert in front of us for no good reason other than because they can and they had a cameo in a movie. And
it's a pretty damn good reason, honestly.
It was a really good reason, and it was an awesome experience. They have all of these random impromptu surprises. You'll just hang out in a row with Helen Hunt and be like, what's up? I'm watching this movie with you. And like, these are the nonstop experiences that you get, but it's not a big deal. And I love that the most because
nobody freaks out when you see, like, it's just like hanging out with your uncle or your aunt or your cousin or something. I mean, it's not like
or
everyone
your friend.
freaks. Yeah, or your friends. Yeah. I guess you could go that way. I didn't mean like that, but you know, I think typically when you go to things like Comic-Con or something, it swarms of people and it's just kind of really an unhappy experience. It can be because it's overwhelming and you don't really get to enjoy the experience of it. You're too worried about trying to navigate the experience. Where here it's all pretty laid back. I mean, you might sit next to Nick Cage or somebody like that and then they're gone. They're watching the movie with you and then they're gone. It's not really about that. I mean, You would think people would
it's
freak
not
out.
about them.
Yeah, it's not about them. It's about the movie. It's always about the movies.
And it's weird to say it's not about them when they're part of the movie, but I say that in the capacity that, yes, when you go to traditional cons and people are literally there paying hundreds of dollars because they want to be near this person, and that gives them some sort of gratification and happiness. Look, I've been there. I hugged Jake Gyllenhaal. I get it. But when you're at South by, you're not thinking about, oh, I'm here because I want to see XYZ celebrity. Like, hey, it's cool if you get to see them in passing and like you get to, fully understand how beautiful Charlize really is in person, and it's not fair to the rest of the world.
It's very uncomfortable.
But you get to sit there and just experience the art of movies, man. Like, that's what it's about. It's about the art. It's about movies. And I feel like a hippie saying this, but it really is just one of the best viewing experiences you could ever possibly have if you're somebody who likes movies. And the best part is, if you pull out your damn cell phone, you are gone. They don't give you a second chance. Yeah, you don't get to have your light come on or your sounds come on. If you screw that up, buddy, you better figure out another screening or figure out how you're going to make up for all that time and money you just wasted.
But it's also, the crowd is very much just as in tune as you are. Press, whatever. It doesn't matter. Everybody's really on the same page. They just want to watch the movies. They don't want that jerk on his phone throughout the movies. You'll be shouted out of that place. You just will not be welcome there ever again.
Yeah.
And waiting in line is also a wonderful experience because you meet people that feel the same way you do. I think it's often hard when you're a movie buff. If you're talking to someone who's not a movie buff, they think, okay, cool. Yeah, man, maybe I'll check that thing out maybe. But here you mentioned something, it's actually, I got to check that out. That sounds great. Thanks for telling me, and vice versa. And it works that way. It's a lovely fan experience.
Well, for those who might not have listened to our South by Southwest episode from years in the past, yes, shame on you. Go listen after this. South by is known for showcasing and premiering films, often before they've even secured distribution. This really helps them do that. How does that process even work, Aaron?
Well, the South by Southwest Festival happens every March in the heart of Austin, Texas, typically. It showcases feature films, shorts, documentaries, episodic premieres, VR projects. I really did miss that this year because it's a pretty cool setup where you get immersed in VR possibilities. Panels with your favorite filmmakers, influencers, and political advocates are also there. On a normal year, you arrive, you check in, you grab your badge, and then you assemble your spreadsheet of planned events, films, panels, keynote speeches, the VR simulations, parties. There's a ton to do at South by. And you don't fret about a movie or panel you can't get into, because if you can't get in, there's always something else going on. And oftentimes it's better than whatever you had planned to begin with. Honestly, I've had that happen more times than I'd like to admit. Like, obviously I should just follow the flow.
The flow.
That's
the flow of Austin. It'll take you where you need to go.
And what they're doing is they're showcasing, like we've talked about, they're showcasing films that haven't been seen, that are seeking distribution, that they believe in. Everyone that works at South by has already screened these films and selected them individually for this particular festival. And unlike other festivals that will not be named, there seems to be a lot of variance here. I feel like it's not just all coming of age stories. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I think many times at festivals it can overwhelm a festival when there's too many. There's genre picks. There are horror films. They have a classification called Midnighters. It's all genre films. There are basically films of every type of genre here, and it just makes it that much more enjoyable and engaging because there's always something for everyone to watch, and that's what makes it so special.
Well, that was my question I was going to ask you next, is what makes it so special and sets it apart from other film festivals.
That's for me. That's what that and the fans, because I've been at a lot of conventions and I've been at other film festivals, and I feel like I don't like to use the word pretentious, but there's a lot of artistic fans at many festivals, and sometimes you will, unless you find yourself in the Wes Anderson camp, you end up with nobody to talk to. Where here I can literally talk to someone about a horror DC comics. I can talk to somebody about drama. I can a coming of age. I can talk to like whatever you're into, whatever you are into, you listening, whatever you are into. There are people in line that you'll be waiting with that will have the same conversations with you because they like the same things. And those kinds of movies there's always different kinds of movies available. And I just think it's fun. Lee Winnell, I saw him at this festival with Upgrade, and that is not a movie you would typically see at a film festival that I've seen. I mean, it's more of a heavy sci-fi genre flick. And then he goes on to direct The Invisible Man. I mean, so many up-and-comers come here to debut their work, and it's not just one kind of film. It's a variance that I think everyone can appreciate.
Let me ask you this, because we've talked a lot about how these fans differ from other festivals, which often get similar crowds in a way. So what do you think it is about South by that gets people to just relax and chill out and not be uppity and not obsess over celebrity culture and the people there? Like, it makes it, what is it that South by does to make it so much more about the art than the people? Because it really is a very different fan base of attendees. Yet a lot of those people also attend other film festivals, and their behavior is just maybe not as awesome. I don't know.
Honestly, I don't know if that's true. Maybe it's just I don't know the answer to that part of it, but I do know that I feel like the leadership from South by, from the top on down, Janet and all them on down, they do a wonderful job of encouraging everyone that comes to enjoy the films, to have a positive experience, to have enough variety for everyone. It's really just like, it's the message. I think they get the message out that this is meant to be, yes, serious art is here, but also have fun. Have fun, be respectful, be good, be kind. I mean, there's just everything in the messaging is positive. And I don't necessarily think other film festivals don't do that. I just don't think they do it as well. Because when you get there, I just feel like everyone understands the respect factor, the fun factor. They just get it. And it's
never spoken about, which is, I mean, like it's mentioned in some capacity, of course. Sure, it's not just completely forgotten, but it's not something that they have to hammer into your head, or they're ripping people out of their seats left and right or anything. It's just like a common understanding. It literally feels like one of the most peaceful places I've ever been to. You have bomb food. You have food trucks everywhere.
All right, well, that's enough about that. Let's talk about the movies you were able to see at the festival, as well as your experience at the festival. We already talked about for the majority, because it's not live. We did it online. So the experience is we sat at home and watched TV a lot. What we are going to be doing is giving you a quick synopsis of each film, and then we're going to tell you our brief thoughts on the film and what our final score is. Remember, we rate every film at the Hollywood Outsider that if $10 is the full price of admission, what do you give it? 10 being the best score, 1 being the lowest, in case you've never listened before. So we're not going to go in any particular order, but there will be our own little mini awards of what we loved at the end. So here we go. First movie is called Women is Losers. I did not say that wrong. That's the title. In 1960 San Francisco, a once promising Catholic schoolgirl, Selena, sets out to rise above the oppression of poverty and invest in a future for herself that sets new precedents for the time. Stars Lorenza Izzo, Brian Craig, Chrissy Fit, Simu Liu. Amanda, we both saw this one.
Yeah, this one I thought was fantastic. Thankfully, it was actually my first movie for South by Southwest Online this year. So
you hit the ground running.
I did. Yeah. I had some really good films to ramp up my start, and very few that fell super short. So this one was impressive. I loved Lorenza's performance here. And I love the concept of a woman, not just a woman overcoming things, because we've seen that done before, and, it is what it is. But I love seeing a woman who continues to persevere, and she doesn't fall into cliches. It doesn't feel like the only thing.
And she's not waiting for a man to save her.
Right.
She's figuring it out.
It's just the normal. I shouldn't say normal. It's just the conditions of that time that's pushing her down, that so many women had to work through and had to overcome, in terms of, being a single young woman with a kid and how she's going to manage to get her own place and, dealing with her at-home situation, which is not super great, to be perfectly honest. But I love that it was just about her overcoming the problems of that time. It wasn't anything that, it wasn't somebody hurting her or attacking her or anything like that. It was just,
choices. I mean, a lot of it was her own choices that just didn't work out the way that she wanted in some respects. And a lot of it was society not allowing women to actually be adults and make decisions for themselves. I mean, so much of the film highlights how complicated and difficult it was back in the late 60s and early 70s to actually be your own person as a woman. People don't realize how close that was.
And the level of judgments. Away. I mean, because her character is not only being judged for being a woman, she's judged for being a working woman. She's judged for being a single woman. She's judged for being a Latina woman. She's judged for being a mother. Like, she's judged for everything that she is, everything about her. She has some sort of judgment put onto her.
What was interesting is it reminded me a lot of my mom, because my mom was a single mother after a divorce, going through that around the same time, like the exact same time. So the whole time I'm watching it, I'm just thinking about my mom, honestly, which is how she's not Latina, but my wife is. So there's a connection. I don't know. My brain, I can make the whole thing connect. But it was really fascinating to see how hard women had it, especially at that time, because it makes me think even more of my mother, which I didn't think was possible. But I know what she went through, because she went to school full time and she worked full time and she took care of me, by herself. And it was a hard, difficult time during those years.
It makes you reflect on how much progress, because I know we always talk about how women have so far to go still, and there's always a conversation about the gender gap, pay gap, and all that. Like, there's still so much to be done, but I appreciated that I was able to reflect on how far we've come too. So I liked that piece of it, but it was a really fantastic performance from our lead and great film.
Did you enjoy? There's constant fourth wall breaking here, where the actress is constantly talking directly to, or the character, Selena, is actually talking directly to the audience and be like, hey, by the way, this is going on right now.
Yeah.
And it's almost like a wink and a nod, but I kind of liked it.
I really liked it.
Did you? Okay.
I didn't.
Just making sure, because I don't know if that's going to be for everybody.
When I first, and I don't know that I necessarily need this in all of my movies, that's for sure, but it was really, the way they used it was so tongue-in-cheek. And it was perfect. And I wasn't sure how they were going to keep it going at the very beginning when I first was introduced to it. And then after a few minutes, I was like, okay, this is really kind of clever and cool. I like it.
All right. So $10 full price of admission. What do you give Women is Losers, Amanda?
$8.50.
All right. And I gave it 8. So it's one of our favorites from the festival.
Absolutely.
And a nice surprise. That was one where an actual Flavio Alves, which is a director that I interviewed for another South by film a long time ago, he actually recommended this film to me and just put it on my radar, which I had told you about it, I think, before the festival started. We talked about it. But it wasn't really on my radar to watch. But he told me, he's like, you got to watch it. So I did.
Well,
and I'm glad I did.
The picture that they had for it, the still, I was like, they're all in like these Catholic uniforms. And I don't.
Which should be a win for me, you would think.
I didn't feel like that was a true a lot of these stills, no offense, I felt like weren't a true representation of what the film was about.
It almost looks like a Mean Girls.
Yeah.
The shot, because it's just a bunch of
it's like 4 different girls,
Catholic girl
and
outfits,
they've got
waiting for a Britney Spears video.
Yeah, they've got some attitudes and pose, which I'm down for, but I was like, I don't know what this is going to be about, but it was very different, and I still really appreciated it. So, moving on to Kid Candidate. This is a story of Hayden Pedigo, a 24-year-old experimental musician, and his unlikely run for Amarillo City Council after his Harmony Korine-inspired spoof campaign video went viral, as most celebrities get their fame this way. So, Aaron, tell us a little bit about this film, Kid Candidate, and if you liked it.
It is, I liked it. Yeah.
Okay.
I liked it. I didn't love it. I think they could have went a little deeper into some aspects of it. it's fascinating to me that this kid basically just took off on a stunt, and it ended up being a political campaign. And then he's trying to run an actual campaign, and his campaign manager even has a real difficult time with him because he just doesn't feel like he understands what is required to be in politics. And I think it is an important film in terms of just because you think you can be in politics doesn't mean that you should be in politics, because there's a lot more to it than just, I want to change the world. You have to be able to navigate the system. And unfortunately, the system is set up to go against you right from the get-go. So it's difficult to learn how to navigate that. That's why incumbents do so well. It's because people just feel more comfortable with somebody who's done it before. Even if they're shady as hell, they're still more comfortable with them because they know how to run it, as opposed to someone who just doesn't know, an idealist, which is what Hayden ends up being. But I admire the kid. I mean, he tried to build something out of it. I'm not going to say which way it went. I mean, watch the movie if you want to know. The only thing I wish it would have done is, and this is a wish. It's not fair to the movie. The movie's not trying to do this story, but I would have wanted to go more into how this impacted the community more. It just felt like this was something that should have been, we got some information from the community in terms of what their problems with what's broken in their area. But I really wanted to know like how him running was affecting other people and what their thoughts were on that. And
like if it maybe inspired somebody else to want to go into politics.
Essentially,
or...
like the community impact was something I really wanted. And that's more of a want. It's not really fair to gauge that in the movie. I always say you shouldn't bring what you want into a movie. It should be whatever the filmmakers are going for. So.
Did it feel like it was inspiring? Because
no.
Okay.
That's why I just say I liked it. I mean, I liked it. It was solid. I mean, it was an interesting concept. That isn't something that I walked out of there going, man, I want to go run for politics. I want to go get involved. I want to, that's not what I got out of it. And probably should have, but it's also a documentary and it's kind of together on a fluke. I mean, who knew? What are the odds that this stunt would lead to his campaign? So it was an entertaining documentary. Just it didn't blow me away.
So if the full price of admission were $10, what are you giving Kid Candidate?
5.
Okay. 5. Solid average. So moving on to Confronting a Serial Killer. It is the story of the unprecedented relationship between author Gillian Lauren and serial killer Sam Little while investigating the devastating impact of bias against marginalized women in the criminal justice system. This sounds fascinating. I did not have time to catch it because I didn't realize that it was going to be more than one episode, and that's what it sounds like it was.
Yeah, it was the first 2 episodes. It's a Starz series, or it's coming to Starz, and it's 2 episodes that we got to screen. Yeah.
So what'd you think of this? Was it a better documentary?
Yeah, I wouldn't call this one inspiring by any means. I mean, it's about a horrible, horrible person. What I did like about this one is it actually looks more at the victims and the author Gillian Lauren herself and what she's going through by talking to this man than it is this horrible man. So it's not giving him more street cred, or it's not really glamorizing him. It's really talking more about the victims and the impact. And there's even in the second episode, one of the past victims who was basically said to have not been a reliable witness, even though she escaped this person, confronted the prosecutor who deemed her an unworthy witness, which is really heartbreaking, because if you think about it, this woman, she was a prostitute. That doesn't mean that she wasn't attacked, but that's how juries see. She was basically discredited because of the fact that she was a prostitute. This guy gets to skate because of that. And that's just a horrible, horrible thing that happens all the time. But you don't often get to see that person get to confront the prosecutor and watch him tap dance all around that. I mean, I actually get where both of them are coming from. Like, I don't think either one of them are wrong. His job is to put on the best case. And unfortunately, people have that bias. But it was interesting to have that put at the forefront.
Exposed.
It's not normally done. And this is Joe Berlinger, who's done a ton of true crime. He did the Ted Bundy stuff that was on Netflix last year. So it's a very compelling. It's much more about the author, Gillian Lauren, and the victims, which I actually appreciated because I'm kind of burned out on glamorizing serial killers.
Okay. If the full price of admission were $10, what are you giving Confronting a Serial Killer?
$6.50, and I want to see the end of it, and I don't have stars, so now I might have to go get stars just so I can see the end of it.
I accidentally paid for it, if that's the one I'm thinking of, so feel free to borrow my subscription.
Can I ask how you accidentally pay for a subscription?
You know when you do those free trials, and then you forget that you had a free trial? One of those things.
Well, I mean, I'd be lying if I said no, but I get it. All right, so next we move to the Fabulous Filipino Brothers. From Northern California to the Philippines, 4 brothers confront their issues with love, family, and culture surrounding a highly controversial Filipino wedding. Told in 4 vignettes with cockfights, adultery, romance, food, and family.
Literal cockfights.
Like with penises?
Like with
or with
the
roosters?
Roosters,
okay.
Yeah. The animals.
You say literal. I misunderstood, and I apologize.
You know what? I shouldn't have said literal.
I mean, you're right. I should be ashamed is what I should
Where
be.
your brain goes?
Where my brain goes. Yeah. So, so the movie itself, tell me about the movie, the Filipino Brothers, the 4 Filipino brothers. This is one where I wanted to see it and just didn't get time to, but it looks charming. Fabulous Filipino Brothers. I apologize. It looks charming. It looks engaging. It looks entertaining. Is it, or was it just, what was it?
The first, so there's 4 vignettes. The first 3 are not great, which is sad to say. It felt like there was a little bit of forced acting, especially in the beginning. And the story started to wander to a place where I just started to not care about it, to be quite honest.
That makes it difficult.
But then I started to get re-engaged towards the end of the movie, which is very weird because typically if you have a movie where you're like, I'm out, man. I was ready to turn the movie off, and I feel bad saying that, but I just wasn't engaging with it like I had hoped I would.
Wish you wouldn't have. But hey, it's there now.
Yeah, it's here. But what rarely happens is a movie that starts to redeem itself towards the end because it's so hard to do. It's
hard when you don't have somebody from the get-go and then you have to win them back.
Yeah. But how bonkers and crazy this gets by the end of the movie, and it had some real sweet level of charm, and this guy is really, he's gone through a tremendous amount of grief in his romantic relationships. And so he didn't really seem like he was looking for anything. His brother sets him up on this dating app, and he meets this girl. He decides to go on a date with her, which surprised everybody because he wasn't even the one who started the app and got on it. But he's for some reason connected via message with this girl and said, all right, I'll go out and see you.
Aww.
And they meet up and they have a really sweet connection. The two of them have fun. And he starts to feel things again that he hasn't felt in a really long time. And that's not really spoiling anything because the whole movie is about relationships and the struggles that they're all dealing with. And this is just what I felt so compelled by his story. And so it really starts to morph into their relationship and who this girl is and what they could or couldn't be. And the family is they're very close. I don't know Filipino culture very well, but it felt like this was just the norm where they are all eating breakfast together all the time. They get together for all meals. They basically live together. Yeah, they're very, very close. And so they're very involved in each other's lives, which also means that they're very blunt about each other's lives. So seeing this girl around, they start talking about her and him out loud while they're both just kind of standing there. And that creates a really great level of comedy. And that's where the enjoyment started to come back in for me. So Did it finish fabulous? It did. I liked the ending. The ending was crazy.
Okay.
I really liked that last vignette the most. And I would say that this movie did redeem itself.
So it's watchable then.
It's watchable.
So $10 full price admission, what do you give? And we probably don't have to say $10 full price every time. People get it. What's your score?
$5.
Okay. All right. I'm going to check that out.
Yeah. So that leads us into Sasquatch.
So weird.
So this is a Hulu series, a true crime documentary series following the investigative journalist David Holthouse as he attempts to solve a bizarre 25-year-old triple homicide that was said to be the work of a mythical creature. I cannot believe this. First of all, Can we talk about
Me either.
how is this even believable? Like, does it get you to potentially believe in Sasquatch?
I wanted to watch this just because I thought it was hilarious. Just the idea that there's going to be a Sasquatch documentary, because it's Bigfoot, man. I mean, come on. I don't believe in Bigfoot. By the end of the movie, I'm like, maybe there's a Bigfoot. Maybe there is. It was fascinating to me, and I thought it was going to be ridiculous. It's honestly something I watched. I thought it was going to be like background noise. I'm like, I'm going to end up tuning out to this thing so quick. It's just not going to be any good. It's going to be such a joke. It was riveting. And it starts basically with, and then this one night, these guys told me Bigfoot killed 3 guys on a dope farm. And I'm like, what? What just happened? And then it goes from there. And I think what makes this work is the documentarians, Joshua Rofe, who's the director and the showrunner, and David Holthouse, who's an established writer. He's a known writer. They both take it so seriously. Like, they're not making fun of anything.
Oh, well, that's cool.
It makes it much more riveting, because you have some people that if you met them at a convention, you would probably be like, oh, okay, Loon, he's got tinfoil hat somewhere. I mean, he believes some weird stuff. But they let people explain themselves and why they believe the things they believe, why they think there's actually Sasquatch people out there. And it ends up being absolutely riveting. By the end of it, I never thought I would in a million years go, maybe there's a Sasquatch. Damn, I want to go up to the Northwest and I want to find this guy, or guys, or women's, whatever they are, find them, these hairy beasts, and, not hang out with them, because obviously they might murder 3 people. Obviously, he's stoned out of his mind. It's on a dope farm. But I just thought it was fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. I was stunned. I enjoyed it as much as I did.
That is so weird. Did they at all talk about the new laws that were coming into, I can't remember which Midwest state it was. I feel like it was like maybe Kentucky or something. And there's a new law that somebody was trying to pass that basically it regimented the Bigfoot hunting. Like, you had to get a license for
to
it.
hunt Bigfoot?
Yes.
How do you get...
So they didn't talk about that? Because
Do they have licenses to hunt fairies too, or what? UFO? One of those are real now.
Because there's obviously some licenses that you have to be able to hunt certain animals. And for whatever reason, this was like presented from a legislator.
Not so far. Well, I think it's like 3 episodes or 4. It's coming to Hulu, so maybe in the upcoming ones that will pop up. But
okay.
That wasn't part of this. This is actually... This was David Holthouse trying to figure out who those 3 guys were that were killed that one night, where he heard about it secondhand, basically. But as the episode goes, there is more to that story. There is a possibility to that story.
So they give you legitimate evidence that could lead you.
There's some stuff where I was like, oh, okay. I mean, all right, that's a really big foot.
Interesting.
Unless some weird NBA guy is just running loose in the forest. This is interesting.
So what is your score for Sasquatch, which is coming to Hulu?
$7. Okay. I really dug it. I really did.
You really did.
I really did. I wanted to watch every episode right after that, like immediately. And I don't do that normally for documentaries. But all right. So introducing Selma Blair. That's next. And you were really excited about this one, Amanda.
Yeah.
Introducing Selma Blair is a deep, intimate, and raw portrait of the actress after she is diagnosed with multiple sclerosis and makes a valiant, risky effort to try to slow the progression of her disease. For the acclaimed yet often supporting actress, her starring role has finally arrived. She just has to show up and fully embrace herself. That sounds like it could be very heartbreaking to watch. And also inspiring. I mean, it really could go either way. So what kind of story are they telling, and how is Selma Blair doing these days?
So the story is very much so about her trajectory that led up to those moments when she made the reveal. So she very much so acknowledges that she was definitely a great supporting actress, and she never had those lead roles. The best thing about Selma is she is so brutally honest, real, and authentic that it makes for such a genuinely enjoyable time. Did she
talk about that stint with Charlie Sheen and his show at all? Did they ever talk about it?
No.
Oh, good.
I don't think so.
That's good.
No.
This might make it better that way.
It's really focusing on her disease, how it's affected her life what she can do to maybe overcome it, because through this she does some semi-experimental treatment to try to see if that'll help with her MS symptoms, because she does have some pretty severe symptoms which can get significantly worse if she is in an uncomfortable or stressed out situation. So you get to see her, and she allows you to see her very, very raw. And she has like a comfort dog, which is super cute. And you get to see the way that her body now responds to things, how difficult it is for her to communicate verbally, although she knows what she wants to say. Sometimes she just can't get that out of her mouth the way that she intends to. But it's heartbreaking in the sense that you feel so bad and sympathetic for everything that she has to go through, and she has a cane to be able to walk. But at the same time, she makes you rethink feeling bad for her in a weird way. Like, you still have sympathy for her, but you are so inspired by her story.
Because she doesn't just succumb to it.
She doesn't. She's like, all right, I'm going to get over this. And you learn a lot about Selma as an individual too. You get insight into her, and this is what I thought was actually most heartbreaking, is the ramifications of the way her mother influenced her self-esteem unintentionally. But it became so apparent throughout the interview that was something that really deeply affected her. But she still has a great relationship with her mom. She loves her mom, and she makes that very clear. But you also get to really understand this beautiful model who did so many wonderful things, how she perceived herself, how unworthy she felt at times. And so I felt like that was a really good representation of what the media can do, to what that does to young girls. And that's basically what happened to her with her own family, is just, are you eating too much? Are you just different things that made her feel like she was not going to be pretty enough and not good enough. And, when it comes to her disease, she goes through this experimental treatment, and she allows you to see her struggling because she's going through chemotherapy. And usually in those very intimate moments, people want to be alone when they're crying their hardest and they're going through the worst severe pain they've ever had. She allows you to be with her on that journey. And so not only does it give insight to somebody who's obviously never experienced that, I think it could also be very comforting to make other people with MS feel like they're not alone, and watching her and inspiring them to continue persevering too. So I really enjoyed it.
So what was your score?
My score is 550. And I know you may be thinking that's probably low. It's an average for a documentary. There wasn't anything exceptional in that. It was just because Selma Blair had a good story herself, and I felt like I really enjoyed her, and that's why I gave it the 550, which is above average.
Don't have to apologize to me.
I'm not apologizing. I just know there's going to be questions like, that's not a good enough score for if you really like a movie.
In this world, if it's not 7, it's not really fair. It's not really enjoyable, is it? Like, that's not how it works now. 5 is a...
Are you just saying that because someone went crazy on you?
Maybe. There was a guy threatened me this week.
He
threatened to kill me.
Yeah.
Because he didn't like a review I bought a movie I saw at South by.
Yeah.
Ironic.
And you didn't even give it a bad score. You didn't even hate on it that much.
I just said it was okay.
It was like I think it was a 550.
It was a 5.
It was a 5?
It was a 5.
So it was straight average.
Yeah. So it was right down the middle. It was an average movie. You'll enjoy it, but you'll probably never watch it again. It's not really memorable.
He literally made his name.
I hate
Aaron B. Peterson.
Threw the B in for effect.
Why?
I'm like, well, that's kind of a bitch move, but all right.
Why was that needed?
That's the kind of things that South by inspires right there. All right.
Yeah. Some emotions.
Some feeling. What are you going to do?
Yeah. So we have...
Also, if you're listening, you can go to hell. All right.
If he's listening, I have some other choice words for you.
As long as you don't have my address. If you have my address, I hope you're doing well. Have a nice day. Crazy man.
Ludi, a hardworking and exhausted nurse, battles coworkers, clients, and one impatient bus driver to learn her self-worth as she chases the American dream in Miami's Little Haiti neighborhood. Now, this sounds like a film that is both drama, emotionally draining, and also could potentially be inspiring. What does this come out as?
Well, the lead actress, and I apologize, I will probably get her name completely wrong, but Shane Montpremier, I hope I said that right.
That sounds good.
Okay.
Yeah.
She was wonderful, like legitimately wonderful. I hope her career just takes off after this. I hope, because the entirety of the movie is just a struggling nurse taking odd jobs to try to make ends meet, trying to get ahead, just trying to live that quote unquote American dream that everybody keeps aspiring to and is constantly struggling for. And it's just about how difficult that is, how hard that is, how much some people really, really work their asses off and never really get ahead, never feel like they're getting ahead, but they keep doing it. And she's doing it because she cares is part of it too, because I mean, she's a caregiver. And I think that's an important film, and especially the last year.
Yeah.
Because, you know, how quickly we've gone from they're the most important people in the world to who again? You know, that's the American way. That is the American dream. And it's just been, it was wonderful to watch because I know that experience. I know that's real. I know that's true. And her performance was so layered and impactful. And it I don't know if I can call it inspiring, but it inspired me to
not be an asshole.
No, I normally try to, thank you. Thank you. I normally try to always approach people that way, that I don't know what their life issues are. I don't know what's going on in their life. So I don't, if you had a bad day, or if, you know, for whatever reason you seem stressed out. Yeah, compassion, empathy.
Yeah.
I think it's a good reminder. That's the word I'm looking for. It's a good reminder to not be so judgmental in life, because you don't know what someone's going through.
Aww.
And you don't know the struggles that they have. And I think people just feel like because you might have it a little easier, that someone else might not have it a little harder. There are plenty of people that are working 2 full-time jobs. There are, you know, but people are so quick to say, well, they don't need this. They don't need help with that. You know, you know how people are. Mm-hmm. They just make judgments and they don't know what people are going through. And I think this is a really good story with a wonderful performance.
Wow. So what is your score for Ludi?
7.
Wow.
$7. Yep.
Definitely one to check out.
And Shane Montpremier, if I said it right, I want to see you in more stuff, because you were phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. So now we move on to Demi Lovato, Dancing with the Devil. This is one of the headliners. Demi Lovato, Dancing with the Devil, is a powerful YouTube Originals documentary event exploring every aspect that led to Lovato's nearly fatal overdose in 2018 and her awakenings in the aftermath. Now, I want to know, how honest is this? Because whenever you have a documentary like this, kind of like Selma Blair, I always wonder, like, how far are they willing to go to let the ugliness show? You know, whatever they went through or what they're going through, how honest are they allowing the cameras to be?
About as honest as I think I've ever seen. And this is really what makes this a great documentary in terms of the filmmaking, is they were allowed complete access to everything. They were given access to Demi, to her parents, to her siblings, to her best friends that she lied to and hid her drug use from. So they even had no idea when she overdosed that she was using again.
Oh, wow.
And there's one point in the film, her best friend says, we're allowed to talk about, we're talking about that. And they're like, yeah, it's like completely just there for you to know.
So it's very raw. I mean,
yes.
The actual meaning of raw, not like when people just, it's a raw story, it's raw. This is actually raw.
Yeah, and it gives you
and
a
honest.
really deep insight into, if you're unfamiliar or maybe you have had some experience with it, you can relate to it, what the power of addiction is and what it means, and not just about the drug and alcohol use itself, which I think is actually fairly minor. They give you detail, and they have a really nice sketch illustration to show you kind of what happened when people came to the house and when they went up the stairs. And so you could visualize what happened, but they don't make it necessarily all about that. They also bring in all of the things that played a factor in her getting into drugs in the first place. Because if you're unfamiliar with Demi Lovato, she started with the Disney Kids, you know, that cool little Disney club back at the youth. And then she rose through the channels, kind of like Miley Cyrus, if you will. And then extrapolated into her own professional singing career. And so with all of that and some sexual trauma and how that rape affected her long term and all of the other things that compounded on top of that in terms of being a star that was idolized and all of the pressure that a young girl, I mean, keep in mind a young
I'm getting
girl.
hints of that Britney Spears.
Yes. Yeah. It's very similar to that, except for Demi's was a little bit more about her appearance and not just like in the way the expectations. Britney Spears is a lot like, how do people see me? How am I being portrayed? Demi Lovato is much more about, am I too fat? Am I too skinny? Because she was constantly being judged. I mean, her tour managers and everything, they would limit what she was allowed to eat. They would tell her what she was really regimented. She talks about her eating disorder, very, very real and visceral in this. And in every capacity, every step of the way, she is fully telling you about it. She even tells, without naming the individual, she talks about the drug dealer who got her the drugs the night of her overdose, that sexually assaulted her, took advantage of her, and then left her for literal dead. I mean,
my God, what a horror! I didn't know that was the story.
That's nobody does. Nobody knew that story.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, it's all kind of all over the news now at this point. But
that's a horrible story. I didn't know. Like, I wasn't trying to be jokey about that. I didn't know that. That's horrible.
And I think what she wanted to do was not only talk to you about the kind of the signs, if you will, like you really get a perspective from her friends and family about how she changed, and they didn't really notice, or they didn't recognize what it meant. And so they were able to, now they can reflect and they know what that means in different things. But the power of addiction and what happens with the drug overdose. I mean, you hear them so often now at this point. It's just kind of like, oh, another person overdosed. I think a lot of people have that reaction now. She had 3 strokes, 1 heart attack. She has permanent brain damage. She has
permanent brain damage. Oh my God.
She lost.
You're really spoiling the hell out of this movie, by the way.
I'm really bad about this. I'm so sorry. She just everything about it.
I think she wants a conversation. I think that's what she wants. She wants people to have conversations about how impactful these things are, right?
And it's
mental health.
And it's also a way for her to clear the name of the people that she associated with, because, and I won't say who or how or what, because apparently I've spoiled everything. But there is someone close to her that fans of hers blamed, and this person's career was entirely destroyed.
Oh my God.
They lost everything. Nobody would work with them again because they thought she was just drama.
Doing something.
And she was involved in drugs, and she's the reason that Demi had drugs, and all of this was just needed to be clarified. And Demi was like, I owe it to all of you to clear your names and to tell the real story of what happened that night, because what the media portrayed is not accurate. And so that I thought was, I'm sure part of it is also like, oh, I'm releasing a new album. So like, there's that part too.
Part of it is also taking back your own narrative.
It is taking back your own narrative.
I think most celebrities or people that are involved in public life don't have the opportunity to take back their narrative. Like, the media runs away with it and then it's gone. Like, you're okay, I guess that's me now. That's my story. And she's doing this, it seems like, as an opportunity to take back that story and say, no, that's not what happened.
And the narrative for the people she cares about, because she knows that her actions affected their lives in a very deep and profound way. And this is really the only recourse she has to try to make amends. All
right. So what's your score?
I give this one $7.
Nice. Sounds good. Sounds good. I want to see it. I want to see it.
Well, it's going to be on her YouTube channel over the course. They're splitting it up into 4 weeks beginning March 23rd. So you can check it out on YouTube.
Can I watch it all at once? Because
probably at the end.
All right. I'll just wait for the end.
Now, we talked about those Midnighters, those awesome horror movies. You got a couple of them that you watched. The first
several, yeah.
Yeah. The first is Broadcast Central Intrusion. In the late 90s, a video archivist unearths a series of sinister pirate broadcasts and becomes obsessed with uncovering the dark conspiracy behind them. Did I read that right? Pirate broadcasts?
Yeah, not pirates.
Oh, like pirating.
Yeah.
I was like,
what?
Johnny Depp?
What are you talking about? What? Yes. Actual pirate broadcasts, things that were done on the own. They basically, in the 90s, I think Max Headroom, I don't know if you're familiar with that, but essentially taking over a signal and throwing your video into the middle of a TV show that's going on. So it's a way to interrupt the signal with whatever your agenda is. That's what they're looking at.
That makes sense with the title of it, Broadcast
Much
Central
more
Intrusion.
than,
Yeah. So what is
what
this?
What a nerd.
What is this film like for you? Was it thrilling? Was it scary? I mean, when you have a midnighter, they can go in so many different directions.
Yeah, they can. It's definitely in the guise of a thriller, and it's kind of a mystery. You're trying to put the pieces together. I would say it's in the vein of Sinister.
Okay.
Where you're watching different clips and they're trying to figure out, he's trying to put the pieces together. Harry Shum Jr. from Crazy Rich Asians is in this. He's trying to put the pieces together.
I love him. He's so awesome. Such a good actor.
He's really good. He is trying to figure out what happened. He just becomes obsessed with it. It costs him a lot because he's doing everything he can to find out exactly what's going on. And he also gets assistance from Kelly Mack along the way. And you know, it's a thriller. I want to say it runs in that sinister 9mm kind of dark and gritty 90s vibe where it's just trying to figure out what's going on. I don't know if the payoff is quite as powerful as it should have been. And I don't think the videos are quite as sinister as they could be. I wasn't really unnerved by them more. I mean, because once you see them, it's basically a person in a mask and you're trying to figure out like, what are they trying to tell us? And there are moments where it's unnerving and moments where it should be. Does that make sense? Where it doesn't quite come across as dark as it should. And that's where I think the movie kind of loses a little footing. And the ending is very, I don't want to say open-ended because there is a conclusion. It's just, it's not as definitive as I think some people will like.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
it's really going to depend. I think a lot of your enjoyment of Broadcast Central Intrusion is going to be how you feel about definitive endings because it's very kind of like The Little Things. Remember The Little Things?
Yeah.
It's in that kind of vein. So it's going to be a lot of it up to you, what you think.
Okay. I mean, it sounds interesting. It sounds
is interesting. Absolutely.
It's worth the viewing. It's just don't get your expectations up too high sort of thing.
Be open to the possibility that you're not going to like how it ends.
Okay. All right.
But I love The Little Things and a lot of people hated that ending. So
what are you giving Broadcast Central Intrusion for a score?
550.
Okay.
Yep.
Now we have Gaia. In the depths of an ancient forest, something has been growing. Something older than humanity itself, and perhaps greater too. When a park ranger discovers a man and his son living wild, she stumbles onto a secret that is about to change the world. Is the movie as good as my introduction?
No, okay. It's I am of so many minds of this movie. I really, really am. It is gorgeously shot, like beautifully shot. One thing I noticed, tell me if you noticed this from South by this year, but I noticed a lot of independent filmmakers are really making a wonderful use of drone video.
Absolutely.
Like some of the actual cinematography and the shots themselves are just absolutely stunning. Like top shelf Christopher Nolan style 4K, 8K, whatever. Just look fantastic.
All the Ks.
More than three. Always more than three. And it's just something where I really found this movie to be beautifully shot. And the story is very intriguing. And if you're a video game fan, there's clickers from Last of Us. That's if you know what those are, you're going to see some clickers in here. It's interesting, and I really like what it's trying to
I'm
tell
waiting
you.
for the butt.
Because Gaia is basically, it refers to Mother Nature. It's Earth, literally Earth. The goddess is Earth. And there's a lot of Mother Nature involved.
Okay.
I really enjoyed the performance from Monique Rockman. I think she does a wonderful job with what she has. It's the last act is really going to be up to you if you enjoy it. I had a hard time taking it seriously. it's trying too hard to be serious. And when it finally concludes, it's just very difficult to take seriously. The message is great. Stop fucking up Mother Earth. I get it. Message, great. The actual execution for especially that final act does not work for me personally. So I definitely think everyone should check it out. If you're a horror fan, if you love allegories, if you're in the Midsummer camp, if you're a big fan of that kind of film, I think maybe check it out and you might enjoy it more than I did. Beautifully shot, interesting story. Love the theme. Monique Rockman, I think, has a future. Like I found her compelling as we went on. Overall, that last act really did not work for me.
Wow, really flubbed for you.
Yeah, kind of whiffed the ending.
Ah, that's too bad. But it sounds like something worthwhile to check out. So what is your score for Gaia?
4.
Okay, so not great.
The Oxy Kingpins covers the untold story of how a network of pharmaceutical manufacturers, distributors, and retailers worked together to orchestrate and perpetuate the opioid crisis that has killed over 500,000 people in America. Wow, not enough people talk about how many people that's killed. That was, I believe, one of the documentaries that people were just raving about was the Oxy Kingpins. Was it worth the talk, the scuttlebutt?
Absolutely. This revealed quite a bit to me that I guess I thought I knew. I thought I understood the problem here, the crisis. And what I really appreciated is that here's another one where they're taking the narrative and they're taking the truth to it. And so this one is really trying to tell you, man, it's more than just the people who are drug users and the small-time drug dealers. What about the massive corporate conglomerates that are abusing their power and intentionally, and I think that's the key word here, intentionally abusing their power so they can continue raking in millions of dollars? It's really looking at these 3 different corporations, McKesson, Cardinal Health, and AmerisourceBergen, and it uses these interview sessions with this presumably big-time lawyer. I mean, he has the confidence of a big shot. And he's trying to take them to court and basically hold them accountable for their actions as a company. And what's most shocking in terms of what would really turn your head is there's a town of only 400 people, and they approved shipments of refills, millions of refills over a 2-year period for only 400 people. Like, they have things in place to catch these. Yeah, there's a town of 400 people, and these corporations that have things in place to catch when there's an abuse of medications, they were approving and even joking in email because they're like, oh, I guess they're addicted, so we're going to be making a ton of money.
They're thriving off the addiction because they profit off of it.
Yeah. They were intentional about the way that they incorporated this, and it focuses on the story from Miami. So here's the thing that I really liked about it. Not only are they taking a look at the corporations that have a big key play in it, and they're saying, you know what? If the people who deal the drugs, the people that use the drugs go to jail, why are these corporations not serving any time or paying any penalties? But they also do an interview throughout it with this big-time drug dealer, 2 different drug dealers that were part of the work, gathering people and getting them to abuse their prescriptions to get more and sell them. They actually, on camera, one of them, his face and everything, he had served time. He is now on the other side of it trying to help people. They interview him, and they interview another guy who has not been caught. So this is super crazy. He has not been caught or served any jail time for his work, and he has taken a huge risk being interviewed because realistically his name could get out there and he could get charged for what he did. He's revealing the truths, too, about these corporations. So
this was riveting. This is a good...
Absolutely.
And this is worse than you thought.
Yeah.
But it sounds exactly like a pharmaceutical company.
Yes. But it makes you realize, if you didn't already, how deep this problem is rooted. It's not going to take...
Well, it's legal heroin.
Yeah.
I mean, it's basically pharmaceutical solutions to legal heroin. They'll say that's not it. Oh, you just want to help people. Sure you do. The addiction is just as high as heroin. The way I understand
And they
it.
even like fully tell the camera interviewer, a lot of times we would just get people who have prescriptions. We just go through the Walgreens drive-through.
Oh
they
my
don't question
God!
it. Yeah. It's just like, geez, man.
I'm just getting madder and madder by the minute.
Yeah.
What's your score of the Oxy Kingpins?
650.
All right. I want to check that one out.
Definitely.
I wanted to watch it at this time, but I didn't get the opportunity. There was too many other movies I was watching.
Yeah.
This documentary next took that spot.
Oh, Clerk, the documentary on the career and life of filmmaker Kevin Smith.
Pot smoker Kevin Smith.
Yeah. How was Clerk? Do we get any insight into Kevin Smith as an actor? Is this following his health issue that he had, or is this just about his career?
It covers everything, really.
Okay.
It's covered by director Malcolm Ingram, and kudos to him because he does a wonderful job of kind of showcasing the man he is. And I've long on this podcast have gone on that I've been really disappointed in how Kevin Smith's films have gone lately because I felt like, wow, he's so talented, and I don't feel like that's showcased in the movies that he's making anymore. Yoga Hosers is a prime example of that. It's hard for me because I used to worship at the ground of Kevin Smith. Like, he was a guy that I loved, and I would watch his Evening with Kevin Smith videos and then his Smodcast. And it's just like, he was an entrepreneur in so many ways, and also an inspiration to young wannabe filmmakers or young wannabe writers. It's something to be impressed by that Malcolm Ingram did such a strong job in terms of showcasing not only his career, like how he got into making Clerk. I mean, I think that's a pretty well-known story, but he also goes into like how that propelled him. It also talks about Mallrats and Dogma and the struggles with each movie and what happened with each, the trials of Jersey Girl, his realization that, Harvey Weinstein was a horrible person who made his career. He actually gave up all of his earnings, which is, it's nice that people know that now through this documentary, if you didn't know that already.
Yeah.
He gave up his residuals because he didn't want to profit off of that man. And also how he redefined his career. I mean, how he multiplied redefining his career several times. He completely became a he became a public speaker, which wasn't something directors ever did. He segued that into being a podcaster, which turned in a huge deal for him. And also, like you were alluding to, he talks about his heart attack, and also he talks about the weed.
Okay.
The weed, which I will give him credit because he doesn't quite totally acknowledge that his movie started getting worse when he started smoking the weed. He does blame Seth Rogen. Seth Rogen got him on the weed. No surprise there for anyone who's ever seen a Seth Rogen movie. But also that he's, I think, been high every day for the last 10 years.
Wow.
At the time of this. And also talks about his heart attack, and how that changed his life and his outlook. And it's a very interesting and inspiring story about a filmmaker I think many people feel close to and feel connected to. Whether you love or loathe or whatever you feel about his movies, it's hard to not root for him because he seems like a genuinely good person who just wants to do well.
Yeah.
He just wants to live life to his fullest. Wants his daughter to succeed, wants his family to be happy, wants his career to be whatever his career ends up being. Like, he doesn't even feel like he needs to be a director anymore. He just wants to see where life takes him. And I love that. Good for him.
Yeah. That's, I think, what we all aspire to be. Absolutely. So what would you give Clerk?
750. I fully enjoyed it. Even if you're not a Kevin Smith fan, I think if you're a filmmaking fan, I think you should watch it.
Okay.
And you learn all about how Jersey Girl went wrong. Okay, next is Chad. It's an episodic premiere about an awkward 14-year-old Persian-American boy who navigates his first year of high school on a mission to become popular. I feel like we've seen this before, or we've heard this story before, but not necessarily from a Persian-American's perspective. So what's the difference there?
So first of all,
it's different. Yeah. That feels like it's dramatically different.
Well, because this 14-year-old Persian-American boy is played by Nasim Pedrad.
Okay, why is that different?
She is... Oh,
it's a trans story.
No.
Okay.
Nope.
Okay.
Nope. It's It's just her pretending to be a boy.
I'm confused.
The actress, Nasim Pedrad, is that very pretty woman. She has like cut her hair and she is playing a 14-year-old boy.
Is it a reality show?
No.
She's just pretending to be a 14-year-old boy.
For the life of me, I couldn't put it on. I couldn't place it. I was like, maybe this is like, maybe he's just a really pretty boy. Maybe this is a trans story.
Is it wrong that in this current generation, I'm like, are you sure about everything you're telling me? Because I don't want to be wrong on any of this.
No, I even researched it after, and I guess that was the thing, is she's the writer and creator of the show, Nasim Pedrad is, and she's also the star. So
how was that then? What was it like seeing her as Chad?
Well, it took me by surprise because I couldn't...
Could you tell it's her now that you know? I mean,
now that I know, yes. Because the whole time I was thinking like, wow, this is like a very feminine, pretty boy, like in a very positive way. I was like, you're a very pretty 14-year-old boy and not in a weird way. But I couldn't put
Good luck saying that, and anything is not weird.
Yeah, it sounds weird. But it was different. I have never seen an actress or an actor intentionally do this, especially if
you weren't alive in the 80s. Happened a lot then. It was a big thing.
Okay. But like, especially if this is not a trans story, like in current climate, I'm surprised that they're going forward with something like this, because I do worry how it might get perceived, because he's not pretending to, I mean,
it's not a girl pretending to be a boy story.
Right. It's just a boy being a boy. But he's the thing that I thought was really interesting is he's very uncomfortable with his Persian heritage. And he really is just trying to fit in. He's trying to be popular. He's trying to be liked. He's trying to fit in somewhere. And he's doing whatever it takes. Now, when I say this is an awkward boy, this is like actually made me cringe sometimes, sort of awkward. Like next level awkward. I just couldn't.
Like,
stop.
Give me a scenario. Like, define awkward here.
So
give me one thing that this boy does.
So he's in school and he notices this like popular group of jocks or whatever, and he goes over to them and he's trying to like talk to them about their summer. And he's like, yeah, I had sex. I did sex. It was good sex. And like...
Sounds like an awkward boy.
It's super awkward. And then he continues to perpetuate this narrative that he had sex over the summer. And so all the guys then follow up with him later and they're like, I heard you had sex for the first time. How was it? And he's like, yeah, I did it. And then she did it. And then we both did it. And it just keeps going and it doesn't stop. And it's like, God, when does this not happen? But he's just continuously super weird and awkward in every scenario. He doesn't really know boundaries very well. And he will do whatever it takes to become popular. But
it's not an identity gender.
Not in the first two episodes.
Story. Okay.
No. I think it's.
Is there an underlying where you think it might be going that way, or it's just because you know that, so now you can't not think it?
Yeah, you will notice it when you see it. You'll be like, oh, okay.
It's funny, they used to have stories like that all the time, where a girl went and basically became a boy just so they could get on the soccer team.
Yeah, like that was common. But this is like,
it's Amanda Bynes.
Yeah, but this is not you. There's no indication in the show that anybody is pretending to be another gender
or feels that they are another gender. Like, it just presented as
they just presented it as this is a boy who's being a boy who's super awkward and trying to fit in, and maybe it'll go that direction. We don't know, but in the first two episodes that does not happen and it's not portrayed that way. So
and it's obviously the Persian culture comes in quite predominantly, I would think.
At least in terms of him trying to be very white American. Like he's
not good at being a white guy.
No, he's trying to really just own that part of
all you gotta do is run around with privilege. That's my car. That's my house.
It's weird because it's almost like he doesn't want to accept his Persian heritage and like, Mom, why do we have to why do we have to be around like Persian people? Like, why can't we be normal sort of thing is like really what he's trying to do.
Got it. Okay.
So he's having, I would say, an identity crisis in terms of that. But
it's
also,
more of a cultural crisis than it is cultural identity. Okay.
Yeah.
That's
and
interesting.
He also seems to be infatuated with other cultures, which is weird because his mom ends up dating a black man and he is like, it changes his world.
He's enamored with black culture.
He's enamored with black culture. And they have a really funny play. See, this is the thing I do like about the show. They have a really funny play of like this awkward kid who's able to, I guess, get away with doing things that most people you'd probably be like, nah, man, that's not cool. But they call him out on it not being cool. Mm-hmm. They're like, no, here's what we need you to understand. Black culture is not something for you to fetishize. You know what I mean? Like, that's
this is just our way of life.
This is, yes.
It's not meant for you. It's not a niche for you to grab onto.
Yeah. And so I really appreciated that they did that. And they made light of it, but not at the expense of the black community.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's how you should do it.
Yeah. But it's like a teaching lesson, too.
And it's a TV show.
It's a TV show. It's premiering on April 6th on TBS. And I know that TBS is so scary to hear. It's so scary to hear.
But you enjoyed it. So, like, what was your score?
I did enjoy it. I gave this one 550. And what I would say is don't be shocked. Don't allow the TBS network to scare you off because, and it's super weird.
Creators are. I'm sure if Nasim is listening to this, she loves that pitch.
Yeah.
Don't let the network scare you off. It just happens to be where it is.
Yeah, I would say probably try to catch it on Hulu or something so you don't have to watch commercials.
Stop.
All right, so then we have The Feast. Over an evening, a wealthy family gathers for a sumptuous dinner with guests in their ostentatious house in the Welsh Mountains. Who wrote this? Served by a mysteriously disturbing young woman. The assembled party do not realize they are about to eat their last supper.
Wow.
So this is not about Jesus.
It is not, but it is
a sumptuous dinner.
Yeah, it starts as where it felt very much to me like it was going to be a haves versus the have-nots kind of thing.
Okay.
Where our mysterious assistant to the meal is helping the wealthy prepare this meal, and you have two pompous sons. One's a drug addict and one is an exercise fiend, and both think they're better than everybody. A dad who doesn't care much about the lowly people of the world, a mom who used to be a lowly person but now is kind of rich, so she looks down on people, and then this mysterious visitor that is helping prepare dinner. And I thought all kinds of things watching the movie. What it ended up being was not what I thought it was going to be in terms of the plot, like the reasoning behind it. But I will say you could watch this and Gaia on the same night and have like a double feature, but I won't say why, but that'll help. That'll fill you in. It's a movie that I think is a very enjoyable thriller, a very slow burn though. It is almost lethargically paced. So if you have a problem with slow burn movies, which some people do, I know they do.
Are you talking to me? Are you talking? I feel like you're.
No,
I feel
I'm
like you're.
I'm talking in general.
I feel like I'm in this scenario right here.
I feel like a lot of people have a hard time with the attention necessary for something like this. You might not enjoy it as much as I did. I couldn't keep my eyes away because I had to see what was going to happen. And then all kinds of crazy shit happens. So I enjoy it. It does get bloody. It's never vulgar, though. It's never vulgar. It's tactful. Thriller.
Tactfully bloody.
Yeah, minus, it goes some weird directions. I will say that. But I did enjoy it, and I gave it $6. Now, the next movie, I think, is probably one that punched us in the gut more than most.
Yeah.
The Fallout. High schooler Aveda navigates the emotional fallout she experiences in the wake of a high school tragedy. Relationships with her friends, her family, and view of the world are forever altered. And it stars Jenny Ortega, who was on You. Remember her? She was on You.
I do.
Maddie Ziegler, Niles Fitch, Will Ropp, Lumi Pollack, John Ortiz, Julie Bowen, and Shailene Woodley.
Which is so weird.
She was really good. She was a therapist. I think she's in two scenes, 2 or 3 scenes.
Yeah, she has a minor role in it, but it was just so weird because she's now to the age where oh, I guess it is believable that she could have a degree in psychology and be a therapist. And it's just like, man, how does that make me?
Yeah, because you've got your degree, but you're not a therapist.
Yeah, so I'm not making
Get on
that money.
Shailene's making it happen. And she's going to marry one of them footballers.
Yeah.
I was encouraged by you and the fact that this won the jury prize at South by to watch The Fallout, because you were raving about this movie. And I'm like, well, I got to get it on my radar. So I did. And I will say the concept of a school shooting immediately was the reason why I was put off. I'm like, I don't know if I can, I don't know as a father and everything else, if I want to experience, I don't know if I want to go through that.
Yeah.
I really don't, because it's something that you already had to worry about as a parent. And I can't even imagine parents who have kids in high school right now. I mean, it just feels like, hey, well, we know the world is coming back to normal because we have shootings again, and that's something that's terrifying. This is more about what happens to those kids after that happens, the PTSD, the trauma, but it does open with the school shooting without ever glorifying the violence,
right,
which I appreciated. You don't actually witness any of it. You just hear, even though you don't witness it, I was not ready for how emotionally impactful that initial opening was.
It was really intense because
very
they're giving you the reaction of people who are unaware of what's going on. They're in another room. They're trying to hide out. You don't know if they're going to be next. You don't know what's going to happen. You don't know how many shooters there are, what their intentions are. So you really have as little information as people in the school who are victims of a school shooting that they typically have, which is zero information and just terror. And you're put in that position with them as close as you could ever be through entertainment media to get in an understanding as to what they're going through emotionally and physically too, I think to a good degree. But I think to your point, it's really about how trauma affects relationships, how it affects you as an individual and changes you so much. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people, when they see people, like kids who are acting out and they're just like, that's a bad kid, they're behaving poorly or whatever, there's not a second thought given as to why they're acting that way. What is going on with them that's leading them to that place? And so I feel
kind of what I was talking about earlier. The whole empathy factor. Yeah,
and it's definitely a theme in the films this year. And I really appreciated that they were trying to make that known. Like, yeah, kids can sometimes be unruly and they can sometimes act out and do bad stuff that you maybe don't expect them to do, especially if it's your kid. You never expect them to do stuff that you tell them not to do. And then they do it and you're like, wait, what? You want me to just accept that? And this is really about sometimes they do that because they're trying to figure out how to cope themselves with their own grief. Mm-hmm. And the trauma from something like this is unparalleled, I feel like. There's not a lot of, in many ways, with many mental illnesses or diseases, you can relate to other people. You can find so many people who have experienced that, and you can have a conversation with them. The sad reality is a lot of the people who experience this, which we do have a lot of school shootings, so there's a lot of victims of it.
There's more every year, sadly.
Yeah. But the sad reality, too, is a lot of those people are dead, so you can't talk to them about it. And especially if you weren't, in this case, you weren't eye to eye with the shooter, I'll say. Mm-hmm. That, I feel like, has an even deeper impact because you don't know what everybody else was feeling. You don't know what happened to all of your friends. You don't know who's in the immediate aftermath. There's so much that takes a toll on you that us, people who have not been in that position, could never really comprehend or understand. And you also get a glimpse as to what the parents are feeling and trying to keep their family together and not, suffocate their child. But also you are so damn worried every time they're, not answering their phone for a minute or something, because you never know what's going to happen to them. And it could have been your child. And that's a horrible thing that there is a moment of relief. So
And the lead in this is Jenna Ortega, not Jenny, Jenna Ortega. And she really goes from a vivacious, lively teenage girl at the beginning to just someone who's desperate to feel anything. I would say she's easily the standout. Would you agree with that? Like she carries the movie.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I want to see her do anything and everything again. And I'll say that this also navigates people understanding their sexuality in a really beautiful way. I liked it.
All right. So what do you give The Fallout?
I gave it 750.
I gave it 750 as well. I think that's one that's probably going to catch some waves, and I think you're going to see that in a lot of places. I think it's going to get a big release, I hope.
Universal acquired international distribution rights in December of 2020.
Nice.
So at some point, I'm sure we're going to be seeing it soon, especially with all the awards and the raving.
Oh, yeah.
It'll be coming somewhere.
So keep an eye out for The Fallout. Now, you also saw Off Season. And thanks to you, I didn't. After receiving a mysterious letter, a woman travels to a desolate island town and soon becomes trapped in a nightmare. This looked really good. It's got Jocelyn Donahue. We actually interviewed her a few years ago for a different holiday movie. What holiday horror movie? I think it was called Holidays. What did you think of Off Season? What was the problem with that?
Well, Jocelyn is great. She is not the problem. She is fantastic. She really steals every scene she's in.
So what's the problem?
She's the one who carries it. The problem is...
She's trying to get these positives out.
I am. And there are some really good moments to it, but
Because it looked like a fascinating concept.
It's not that it's bad. I'll say, first of all, it wasn't for me. So this obviously impacts my viewing of the film. I
don't know what that means, though. What does that mean? It wasn't for you.
The
world doesn't know you, Amanda. Come on.
The movie up until the third act really felt like it was going in one direction, like in a paranormal direction.
Okay.
And in the third act, and I don't want to say where it goes because then I'm spoiling it.
Right.
It goes in a completely different direction. And I guess reflecting, I can see how it gets there. But I just felt like the buildup and the payoff was just not there for me for what I got.
Okay.
And I didn't feel like they were really setting up proper expectations. Like it was one of those, aha, gotcha sort of things. So that was a little disappointing. It was
more like the ending wasn't earned. It was more like we got the ending and we're going to write to it and throw you off, but it's not really earned.
And it's not that they weren't trying to be super tricky or anything. They just didn't establish it well enough, and it was just weird. It was weird. So
all right, so what do you give Off Season? And I'm assuming an off score.
I gave it 450. I will say that if you like more HP Lovecraftian type stuff and you're okay with some weirdness, you might find a more enjoyable experience than I did.
But you like you like Lovecraft Country.
Yeah. This is different.
Okay.
I don't know.
All right, carry on.
So then we have Here Before.
Mm-hmm.
After new neighbors move in next door, a bereaved mother begins to question her reality in this unsettling psychological thriller. I really wanted to see this one. Didn't have time for it. Tell me, is it worth me trying to find?
I thought it was really good. Yeah, it was really fascinating. And what happens, and then this isn't a spoiler because this is kind of the whole plot.
Okay.
Is a little girl moves in next door, and Andrea Riseborough stars as Laura, and she believes this little girl is her dead daughter Josie reincarnated.
Oh.
So she starts to believe that this girl is actually her daughter brought back to life.
So she wants the little girl.
No, it doesn't turn into some creepy stalker movie. It turns into where this little girl is saying things that she shouldn't know. And her mom is trying to identify, does that mean, like at first her mom she's not on board with that. But then she starts to think, well, maybe, I mean, is that possible? I mean, she knows stuff. She's remembering real moments that she shared with her daughter. And the movie does a really cool thing where it doesn't really show you clearly the deceased daughter because it really wants to put in your mind the possibility that this could be the case. And I'm not going to tell you which way it goes because it actually has kind of a clever twist ending that I didn't see coming. Again, another slow pace. It's not fast paced. It's very much a slow burn, building the world and building your believability in the possibility that this could be the case. And the whole movie is carried by Andrea Riseborough. Her performance is just heartbreaking. It's really a movie about a woman's grief and how hard it is to lose your child and try to move on with your life, and how easy it is to fall back into grief. You know? So it's more a drama than it is a thriller, but man, the thriller concept is interesting.
Wow. So it sounds like it's worthwhile. What'd you give it for a score?
650.
Okay.
You?
Then you have I'm Fine. Thanks for asking.
Mm-hmm.
When a recently widowed mother becomes houseless, she convinces her 8-year-old daughter that they are only camping for fun while working to get them off the streets. I think you mentioned about this one how much you appreciated certain elements of it, of her being a mom and really trying to save her and her daughter, basically from being homeless. And so tell us a little bit about I'm Fine. Thanks for asking.
Yeah, I'm a sucker for single mom stories because my mom was a single mom, so I know the struggle. I know the real struggle. And Kelly plays mom in this, and she's living on the street. I mean, that's ultimately what she's doing. She's living on the street. They live in a tent. It's really, really sad, and her daughter is adorable. Just adorable. What she's trying to do is basically it takes place over the course of one day. And her daughter's Wesley Moss, that's her name, and she's adorable. But it takes place over the course of one day, and what Kelly is Danny, she's the lead character. What she's trying to do is just get enough money to get that apartment, to get off the street so they're not living in a tent. And nobody knows they're living in a tent because she's too proud. She doesn't really want to ask for help. But she also kind of wants to ask for help, so it's a conflict. It's a struggle. And she's doing everything she can. She's actually on roller skates. And this is in COVID times because people are wearing masks and whatnot. And she's trying to do people's hair. She's doing like a Grubhub type delivery service. And she's just trying to get that money and then going about her day and finding different ways to make money. It's a really kind of sad, but also hopeful tale because Danny never loses faith that she can make it, that she can find a way. Even when she's crushed. I mean, even when she's crushed, she doesn't quit. She gets back up. She keeps going. She's trying to do everything she can. Even when things are against her, she's getting up and doing it again. And I just really respected her, and I liked her performance a lot. And also if you ever watched Blackish, Deon Cole is in here, and he's a producer too. But he does like literally a drive-by cameo. And it's freaking hysterical. And I love that scene too. So it's a fun little movie that I think people will probably find and have a good time with. I gave it $6.
Okay. Good score.
And we're going to move from that one to the one I think Amanda just loved. I watched it actually twice. Wow.
Well, I watched it once
for review purposes, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Well, it's called Recovery. And I'll be honest, when I read the description, I wanted nothing to do with this movie. Same. The last thing I want is a COVID movie after dealing with COVID. But here's the plot. 2 directionless sisters brave a cross-country road trip to rescue their grandmother from a COVID outbreak at her nursing home. Stars Whitney Call, Mallory Everton, Anne Sword Hansen, Julia Jolly, and a lot of other people. You told me to watch this. I said, I don't want to watch this. It's a COVID movie. She's like, it's hysterical. It's so funny. It is really damn funny. Why did you love Recovery so much?
Well, it definitely wasn't the COVID story, which honestly
they do great things with it. They make fun of all the best things, including nursing home sex. Yes, they
During
do
COVID
have that.
Times. They do have that. There's a lot of stuff going on. Yeah, they are hilarious. The 2 leads, I mean, God, they are fantastic. Whitney Call and Mallory Everton. Mallory is actually the director here too. And Mallory is the one who really stole it for me. She was just out of this world hilarious. When I tell you I haven't laughed this joyfully or just this deep hearty laugh, and I had tears streaming out of my eyes from laughing so hard. It has been so long since I've laughed this hard, and I just gotta give it to them because they take a plot that really is super minor. It's basically a road trip movie. It's really all it is. And at the same time, they're dealing with certain life situations, if you will, that are affecting and plaguing them. You know, we have one sister who is played by Whitney Call, and she is a teacher that has pet mice, which sounded cute before COVID. Now she's like, they make this awesome joke about how she's basically just like this weird lady who has pet mice, and she has to drop it off with this weird child who's got an affinity for mice. And the mom is like, she's not having the mice at all. And she also maybe she's a little bit of a creep. She thinks maybe this lady is creepy because the kid has her phone number. Nobody knows why, nobody knows how, but the kid has her phone number.
Let's try not to give every joke away, though. Let's try.
I should probably stop. Okay,
yeah.
Let me backtrack. It is just so hilarious the way that they use COVID to make jokes without making you feel like you're in a world of COVID.
Or making fun of the people that
horrible
aspects of it. Yeah.
They knew how to make light of a bad situation, and it never, like you said, it never poked fun at the pandemic itself. It was just, it made you laugh amidst that, like regardless of the fact that you're in one of the worst, most terrible situations that you've probably ever been through. And they're literally trying to save their grandma. That's not a joke for them. They truly want to save her because so far she doesn't have COVID, and we can save her from COVID. And
they have a sister who is just throwing caution to the wind, going on cruises and everything else. And she could get grandma, but they're like, no, you stay away from grandma. Like, so that's the other. So there's another sister too, and that's they have a lot of fun with that too.
They do. They know how to make fun. I should stop saying make fun because they're not making fun at it. They're making fun in spite of it. Yeah. That's a good way to phrase it. So I think about this movie and I want to rewatch it. I did not expect to like it this much. And I did watch it twice. It's in the vein of
Booksmart, I would put it. Like it's that kind of comedy, I would think.
Yeah.
And I love the setup. Like the very beginning, they're talking about all the things they plan on doing this year. And like, hey, at least Tom Hanks is okay, right?
Yeah.
Like just, it's nice little touches like that really feed it. So what do you give Recovery, which I want to say is going to be one of your higher scores, I'd guess.
Yeah, I'm going to give this one 850.
All right, I give it 7. I don't do a ton of comedies, and I laughed a lot. So thank you. I needed that. I needed to laugh, not at COVID, but with COVID.
Yeah, you laugh with COVID.
Now, you also saw something called Dale's House. It's a horror comedy about two estranged best friends, both at rock bottom in their careers and personal lives, who end up house-sitting together in a demonic house that grants them all the access they desire in exchange for their souls. What did I say? Access?
Yes.
Well, they give access to their success. That's what I was trying to say. Okay, so that stars Julie Lake, Matt Kirsch, Sandy McCree, Jeff Kahn. What did you think of Dale's House?
This is super weird. So this is a pilot, an episodic pilot, which means
this is a TV series then.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it is very short. It was like 2 episodes of like 25 minutes or something like that. And it's weird because listening to the description, and it says that it does say they're estranged best friends, but like they're really estranged. Like they haven't talked in a while, and they just happen to get an invitation to house sit at the exact same place. And they have no idea what's going on, but there's some weird stuff going on. And there's a neighbor who... she's one of it because there's like a comedic element to this, like very light horror comedy. And this neighbor is just really trying to make you uncomfortable. And they also recognize how weird this lady is. Like, okay, there's something probably not right here. But they still decide to stay anyway. And things start to unravel. I thought it was okay for the pilot. I was not overly impressed with it. I thought that they could have established more because you don't get a lot of airtime with it. So I would have hoped to get a little bit more out of it because I felt like I just didn't get to know what the intention of the show is.
Mm-hmm.
You learn more about the show in the description than you do in the show, in what we see.
So what was your score, first of all?
$5.
Now, because it's a show, would you want to watch the rest of it?
I would give another episode. I would give it a go, but I can't say that I'm like invested. Like, for whatever reason, I do want to see the next episode of Chad. Dale's House, if I miss it, I miss it.
And what network is that one going to be on?
That one is a pilot, so that one hasn't been picked up yet.
Okay.
So who knows what'll happen.
I don't think you're selling it well. So
yeah, sorry.
All right.
So then we have Our Father. In a last-ditch attempt to foster a meaningful bond, estranged sisters Beta and Zelda. Beta and Zelda? Okay.
That's really their names, yeah.
Go in search of their mysterious Uncle Jerry.
You think they're lying about their own description? Like
That's an unusual choice of names.
It is. It's a beta test.
It's
probably not that funny, but go ahead. Continue.
Well, at least I get it right that Zelda's a girl.
Mm-hmm. They're both girls. They're sisters. It says in the description.
I know. I'm just saying, Zelda. Everybody thinks it's a boy, and that's Link, but Zelda's actually the girl, and this is a girl here. Anyway, so what? Talk to us more about this Our Father. It sounds like there's something bad that happened to Uncle Jerry, or is he just gone?
Oh, no. Well, what happens is their father is dead.
Oh.
Their actual father dies.
Okay.
And Beta and Zelda, who are played by Baze Buzan and Allison Tarem, they go in search of Uncle Jerry. Uncle Jerry is an uncle they didn't even know they had. They had no idea. Nobody's ever talked about him. He's kind of this guy who went away a long time ago and never came back.
So they just need to connect with family with the loss of their
father.
Kind of,
because they have family. They have a grandmother who isn't very warm and welcoming. They have 3 brothers who are all older from a different relationship, so they're not very close. They act like they're not really important in their lives. So the sisters are really all each other have in terms of family, and they want to connect to Uncle Jerry. So it's them trying to get to Uncle Jerry, but also it's the women and their personal plights too, because Beta is getting ready to go off to grad school. She's going to go to, I think, Yale or Harvard, one of the fancy ones. And then Zelda is actually someone who just cannot make good life decisions. She just consistently makes bad life choices and is obviously struggling. She's a cutter. She's dealing with boyfriends that are not great for her necessarily, and not well. She's got her own problems. And so they're both in search of, I think, personal meaning, and that's what the film is largely about. And it largely succeeds for the majority of the film. And then in the last 15 minutes or so, it just kind of loses me, which is really, really sad.
Well, that's unfortunate.
It doesn't ruin the movie. I do think this is an entertaining movie and an interesting movie and a good story. I just don't feel like the landing was not necessarily worth the journey, was the conclusion that worked best for the characters.
It wasn't logical.
No, it works. I mean, it's logical. It doesn't, I mean, it's like life. There's no real conclusion to a degree, but I just think that it's all for nothing in some respects.
Oh, okay. So what did you give Our Father for a score?
550.
Okay.
I still think it's worth a watch if you catch it.
Yeah.
Then we have Witch Hunt. This is one I think we were both kind of excited for. In a modern America where witches are real and witchcraft is illegal, a sheltered teenager must face her own demons and prejudices as she helps 2 young witches avoid law enforcement and cross the southern border to asylum in Mexico. It's kind of interesting. It's kind of like the Handmaid's Tale for witches.
Yeah. That's what it reminded me of too.
It was an interesting story because they take it very seriously, and the law says you can't practice witchcraft. So a lot of times the people that are trying to bust you will trick you to do some witchery, and that's how they get you. So it's an interesting concept. So
the law doesn't also seem to really care about the law, though.
Yeah, the law is pretty vague in this flick. What did you think about Witch Hunt?
I liked it. It did not meet my expectations. Because,
well, let me know, what were your expectations? Did you think it was going to be a big thriller? Because it's really more of a drama. It's almost like a Handmaid's Tale for
really,
witches. Yeah.
I mean, that's a really good
Look at how sad these witches have it.
Yeah. And you do feel bad for them, and you're trying to figure out if they're going to survive. And like, that's the thriller part of it. And the horror is, I guess, more just what they do to the witches. Like, that part's pretty terrifying and awful. And also how they determine who's a witch by like being a ginger, I guess, basically.
Well, obviously, I think we all know that. That is science.
So I liked it, though. I think you liked it a little bit less than I did. You had more problems with it. I didn't mind it so much.
I was bored a lot.
Oh.
Yeah. That's really my biggest problem is I don't feel like it was engrossing enough. I think the acting was all fine. I love the idea. The idea is clever. No, maybe that's an expectation thing. Maybe I thought there'd be a little bit more witchery going on. Instead, it was more almost family drama.
Yeah, they could have used a little bit more witchery, and it could have gone a little bit darker. I also, because this is like PG-13, it felt like more so like it could have gone
like a CW TV movie. It did,
yes, it did feel a little CW-y. I also feel like they could have explored more into what they do to the witches. There was, to create some like drama or tension, they have like a flashback and then you see one scene of like a really horrible scene, but I didn't feel like it really created enough fear in us for these law enforcement people. Like, we're only quote unquote afraid of them because the witches are, but I didn't really feel like I was fully bought into that.
And they were kind of one note.
Yeah.
I mean, there were moments where I was expecting some mustache twirling. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
So what did you give Witch Hunt?
I gave it 5.50. I thought it was worth a watch, but not much more than that.
Yeah, it's one. If it was on Netflix, I'd watch it. Streaming. But I give it $5.
Okay.
I did have a real problem with Elizabeth Mitchell, who I love. She's been.
You really didn't like her, huh?
No, I love her, but I had a problem with her wardrobe because how do you make this woman wear these clothes? They were just.
I was gonna say she was enchanting.
Almost looked frumpy. How do you make this woman look frumpy? She's gorgeous.
I don't know that I thought she looked frumpy, but
I didn't like her wardrobe. It stood out to me.
Oh, here we go. A man judging a woman on her appearance.
Oh,
here we go.
I know. I'm judging the costume designer. I'm saying they could have done better.
The next one is The Drover's Wife, The Legend of Molly Johnson. This is the one I think Aaron was most excited for.
It was, yep.
As soon as I saw it and I saw the title and the still for it, I immediately was like, Aaron's going to watch this.
It's like Lady Unforgiven.
Yes. And it's a reimagining of Leah Purcell's acclaimed play and Henry Lawson's classic short story, a searing Australian Western thriller asking the question, how far do you go to protect your loved ones? Now, this is a little vague in terms of the description.
A little? That's very vague. It doesn't tell you anything about the story at all.
Tell us more about this, which stars Leah Purcell, Rob Collins, Sam Reed, Jessica DeGao, and Malachi Dower Roberts.
Well, it's Leah Purcell plays Molly Johnson. She's the star. And her husband is a drover. Now, if you don't know what a drover is...
I don't.
I didn't either. Had to look it up. Even though they clearly explain
I thought it was a name.
No, it's...
like Mr. Drover.
It's a job. It's an occupation.
Okay.
It's somebody who herds sheep, basically.
Oh. I thought they were sheep herders.
That's what I just said.
I know.
They herd sheep.
But I'm saying, I thought that was the name. The name was just sheep herders.
In Australia, they call them drovers, yeah? That's not a good accent.
Does she have an accent?
Yeah, she has an accent, but she does it well because she's probably from there.
That's probably true. It is an Australian film. Go on.
Yeah. So, The Drover's Wife is about Molly Johnson, who her husband is gone, and she's raising her kids, and she's pregnant. And it's what happens to her as she runs across an Aboriginal man and his ability to help her through her pregnancy, and then things just kind of go south. Now, what it really is about is women in the frontier and how difficult they have it, how very little rights they had back in that time, and how their struggle was eternal. Like everywhere they went was a struggle. If they got the wrong husband, their life was going to suck, and there's not much you could do about it. If you loved anyone who wasn't white, or didn't look like you, it was a problem. I mean, there's a lot of factors to the movie that I don't want to really get into too much because I really want people to enjoy it and kind of uncover the story as it goes. It was a fascinating tale. It wasn't a straight up Western like I thought it was going to be.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's not really any gunfights or any cool.
I fully expected like full on Western.
There's definitely some shootings, but it's not like I would typically say a Western. It's more of a drama. It's really about this woman's struggle to just escape the life she's stuck in.
Oh.
And try to make sure her kids will get out okay. And that's really all I want to say because I don't want to take a chance of spoiling anything for anyone. But Leah Purcell, directed as well. Fantastic job. I really, really thought her performance, which is the entire movie, like it is really what makes the movie work. And she just did a great job.
All these lady directors. I love it. Mm-hmm. So what do you give The Drover's Wife, The Legend of Molly Johnson?
$7.
Okay, good score.
Yep. I would love to see this on a big screen too. There's a lot of wide sweeping vistas and whatnot. All right. Next, Tom Petty. Somewhere You Feel Free. That's
not how the song goes?
No, it's not. I don't know how the song goes. I'm not a Tom Petty guy. Drawn from a newly discovered archive of 60mm films showing Tom Petty at work on his 1994 record Wildflowers, considered by many, including Rolling Stone, to be his greatest album ever, Somewhere You Feel Free is an intimate view of a musical icon. And that's why I think it's important. You watched this as a huge fan of Tom Petty.
Correct.
Did you get anything new from Tom Petty? Did you feel like this connected you to the artist in some way? What did you get?
It does connect you to him because it's really just like behind the scenes footage. I would not say, if you're not a fan of Tom Petty, don't watch it because you're not going to care.
That's why I didn't.
Yeah, you're not going to care. It's really just behind the scenes footage, and you get to understand. There are some interviews, and you get to understand where his mind was at that time. This was actually discovered by his daughter, and Adria, is the one who decided, you know what, I think this would make a great documentary. I think cool. The world deserves to see this. And quite honestly, I feel like most of it was already there because there's no new content. All of this is just archival footage from 94. So I don't think it's really doing anything exceptional in terms of the filmmaking. But I do appreciate whenever you get to understand more of a musician and an artist and somebody that's contributed so much to the history of music or any entertainment media. And in here, you get glimpses of what others think of him as well, which I thought was great. And you get to understand more about the making of this album. And that's really all the film is about. It's not anything that will shock you. There's no real revelations in it. I do wish that there would have been more current interviews in talking about kind of the impact Tom has had on people and the gravity of his loss. Mm-hmm. But I also recognize that this has partly his daughter's vision, and she might not have wanted to get into that. And so I recognize and I appreciate that. They do have some great footage with Rick Rubin, Mike Campbell, Benmont Trench, Howie Epstein, Steve Ferrone, and lots of people who just were part of that collaboration and how they got involved with it. So if you are a Tom Petty fan, you will want to check this out. If you're not a Tom Petty fan or you don't care about music, then don't watch it.
And what would you give this one?
$6.
All right.
Aaron, you saw a swan song. An aging hairdresser, Udo Kier, escapes his nursing home and embarks on an odyssey across his small town to style a dead woman's hair for her funeral, rediscovering his sparkle along the way. Yes. It also has Jennifer Coolidge in it. Talk to me about this because it sounds really odd, but maybe very fascinating.
It's fabulous. It's fabulous. It's very much like that's his whole presentation.
Yeah.
He's just this hairdresser that's relegated to a nursing home and basically just left. And it's really kind of melodramatic in many ways and warm, which I didn't expect. I thought it was just going to be quirky and kind of just fabulous humor and things like that. And kind of espousing comedic elements of his eccentric lifestyle. But what it really boils down to is he was a man who was kind of on top of the world as a hairdresser. He was well renowned as like this fabulous hairdresser. And then he had a former partner who kind of like took the business across the street and kind of took away a lot of his clientele. Then his partner passed away and they didn't have a will. So all of his, so they weren't married technically. So he lost everything because it went to his nephew, and apparently his nephew didn't want to share. So then he was just stuck, and he just kind of gave up in many ways. And now he's stuck in this nursing home, and he gets this call that this woman passed away and loved what he did with hair and wants him to finish her hair. So it's him leaving the nursing home to go do this, but also kind of like having this, it's almost like a road trip, but it's across town. It's just him walking across town and coming across all these various people and just rediscovering his own life and where he went wrong and his own shortcomings, but also his desire to just live a fabulous life from what he's got left.
Oh, that sounds kind of special.
It is. It's kind of funny. Udo Kier is definitely the reason why the whole movie works, and he's charming. He's engaging the whole time. You really care. You come to care about him. That's the thing I didn't expect. I thought it was just going to be like kind of a quirky comedy, and you really come to feel for him and his journey. So I think Swan Song is good. I give it $6.
Now I need to clarify. This is a narrative feature. This is not a documentary.
Right. It's not a documentary. Yep.
Well, I didn't know if it was a documentary.
No. Well, now you do. I just told you. Now, we just saw Cruel Summer, the first episode of this series coming to Freeform, formerly ABC Family, formerly something else. I don't know. Yeah. But it's from executive producer Jessica Biel. Cruel Summer is a psychological thriller taking place over 3 summers when a popular girl goes missing and an awkward outlier transforms to a queen bee and eventually the most despised person in America. Now, we can't tell you why she's despised because that would really spoil some stuff. But we can tell you that it takes place over 3 years. You go from basically a geek to popular to outcast over the course of those years. And there's a kidnapped girl at the heart of it. And there's, of course, a boy at the heart of it. Of course. There's always a boy. And some friends. And actually, Harley Quinn Smith is in this, Kevin Smith's daughter, as well as Olivia Holt is and don't worry, if you've seen her in other stuff, you're not going to be annoyed with her. No, she does well here. So Cruel Summer, right up your alley. You love shows like this where it's just kind of ridiculous, but also intriguing. What did you think of Cruel Summer? I really liked it. I was completely in. I bought into whatever craziness is happening. I did not expect it to go into the thriller aspect so quickly and in the way that it did. And I know you had a difference of opinion in terms of the way that they structure those 3 summers because they do a little bit of flipping and flopping back and forth. They go back and forth and it got a little annoying in parts. Yes. Yeah. And I get that. I can manage it. And I think we laughed about this because I've watched so many CW shows and they do stupid stuff like this. I can accept it and manage it and it's fine and it doesn't bother me. But I do recognize that it can be an issue for people. I started to get used to it. But after a while, it's like, oh my God, this is the braces? Okay, so now I know what year this is. Okay. Yeah, you basically had to remember. You go by her hairstyle and her teeth. Yeah, she has a very distinct style about her for each of those summers. Yeah. And she's this is another one where she's a little bit desperate to fit in. And the moment she finally does find her place, everything falls apart. And I guess that's as much as we can really say about it. Mm-hmm. Performances are pretty good. I really liked seeing the dynamic in this character change so much between those 3 summers. Because when you're looking at her in the first summer, and she is a young girl and she's full of life and she's kind of nerdy and awkward. And then she progresses into this more adult version of herself, more confident version of herself. And then the 3rd summer, girls cut her hair
She's kind of got like an emo vibe, you know, like I still get you, but like maybe you have some anger issues. I don't know. So what'd you think of it?
I started to come around. I mean, I definitely did not like it as much as you liked it, but on the same token, this is really kind of up your alley. I was compelled, especially once I knew what because you find out at the very end of the first episode why she's so much of an outcast, because they don't tell you until the very end, and then you're like, oh shit, now I want to know what happens. So I'm on board. I didn't like the bouncing around in time thing.
And I did like that they set it in the 90s, and they kind of gave nice little remembrances and throwbacks to the 90s, so I appreciated that too.
All right, what did you give Cruel Summer?
750.
Okay, I gave it 6.
Okay.
It's something I will continue to watch.
Okay. You saw Paul Dude's DOOD, Deadly Lunch Break. A weedy charity shop worker is set on winning the big national talent show, but when the auctions of 5 selfish people cause him to miss his audition, he sets out to seek deathly revenge. It's 1 lunch break, 5 spectacular murders.
Yes.
What?
Yep, that happened. It is a surprisingly charming film.
Is it ridiculous? It sounds a little ridiculous.
It's definitely ridiculous, but it's also surprisingly charming. And Tom Mateen plays Paul Dude. And put it this way, he's basically one of these people that wants to go on like an American Idol kind of show, or America's Got Talent. Show he has talent, become a star. And he's been working on it for the longest time. And his mother has been nothing but supportive. June Watson plays his mom, Julie. Nothing but supportive. And the time comes and he has the date wrong. So he's rushing to try to get to this audition to win this contest and be famous, because that's all he's wanted to do forever. He wants to he knows he's more than he is. And his mom believes in him, which is beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
And that means something.
It does. It's really sweet. And she demands to go with him because it's so important for her to be, and he wants her there. Like, he wants her there. Aww. So they're trying to get to the audition, and then it's basically like 4 or 5 people that cause him to miss this audition, or to not do well at this audition. And that's when he plots to, I don't want to say what else happens, but he plots to kill them because of it. And everything goes right and wrong at the same time. It's kind of gruesome. Like, all the murders are ridiculously over the top. And also funny, and also charming. Like, Tom Mateen is really like a guy I end up rooting for him to kill these people. I get it. I'm on board.
Aww.
Yeah, I'm with him. And it's surprisingly charming, very Shaun of the Dead type humor in that respect. I really, really, really enjoyed it. I definitely would recommend Paul Dude's Deadly Lunch Break whenever it's released. It's one of those where I think it's going to be a cult classic, or at least a cult hit.
Huh.
Yeah.
And what is your score for it?
7.
Okay.
$7. It's directed by Nick Gillespie. So check that one out. And it's a title you won't forget. Paul Dude's Deadly Lunch Break.
DOOD.
Yeah.
Dude.
You saw Ninja Baby.
Yes, I did.
When Raquel, who's 23, way too late, finds out she's 6 months pregnant after a not-so-romantic one-night stand, her world changes. She finds out she's pregnant at 6 months?
Yes. So she's a very small-framed girl.
Isn't this like a Dutch movie or something?
It's Norwegian. I was actually pleasantly surprised with this. But yes, she does find out that she is pregnant 6 months into it. It does happen. Not commonly, but it does happen. And she finds out, so she has this one-night stand with a guy. She starts feeling like maybe she's pregnant, so she goes to the doctor.
Like you do.
Yeah, so she goes to the doctor to get this ultrasound and abortion. Like, she's just going to wrap it all up, one appointment. And the guy is with her and everything, very supportive. And they're like, well, you're actually a lot further along, so legally we can't give you an abortion because you're too far along. And she's like, what are you talking about? Awkward for this guy because they had a one-night stand. And so she's trying to determine, she's not somebody that wants to have kids. She never planned on this happening. She kind of parties a lot, so she's probably not in the best mindset and like lifestyle to have a child. And there's this really unique element that they incorporate where Raquel, as the character, is a cartoonist. And so that's kind of the way she sees the world in art. And so there will be moments where her character will actually visualize cartoons, and you'll see these cartoon drawings where, a hand might be. It'll turn into a cartoon drawing or something.
Okay.
And it was really cool to see the way that they incorporated that artwork with the real life film. And I thought it was fascinating to show that because it's from her perspective. And so it's what her outlook is. And it's also really funny. I did not expect it to be funny. And I didn't expect it to be so charming. And I've really got to say, like, this is one I would watch again. I did enjoy it a whole lot. The main actress, I can't pronounce her name very well or at all because it's Norwegian. But she was so talented, and she did such a wonderful job giving us emotions and giving us anger and giving us sadness and being fun, being the fun girl. And she has all sorts of things. And I just really loved the character, and I really enjoyed the film. So that's Ninja Baby.
Christine Kuath Thorpe.
If that's how you say it, yeah.
I don't have any idea, but we're going to go with that. Sure.
And the director's name is even harder to pronounce. It's Yngvild Sviflik.
Yngvild Sviflik.
Yeah.
I'm 100% Norwegian. Honorary Norwegian at this point. All right, so what's your score for Ninja Baby?
650.
All right, I want to see that. It actually sounds a lot of fun.
All you got to do is read.
It's fine. I can read.
You saw Sound of Violence, where a young girl recovers her hearing and gains synesthetic abilities during the brutal murder of her family. Finding solace in the sounds of bodily harm as an adult, she pursues a career in music, composing her masterpiece through gruesome murders. This sounds wild. And I remember seeing it because I wanted to see it as well. I remember seeing the still for it. It seemed like it was vividly colorful and artistic. What is the Sound of Violence like? And is it as brutal as it sounds?
Well, first, I want to say Jasmine Savoy Brown is the lead, and she plays Alexis Reeves. I loved her performance. Like, I thought she was great. Legitimately great. It's a weird movie, but it's right up my alley. It's basically just it's a slasher flick. It's a slasher flick, but it's doing it a different way. It's someone who's been traumatized in their youth. Basically, she watched her father kill her mother, and she had lost her hearing at that point, but for whatever reason regained her hearing, when that happened. So later she starts having problems with her hearing, and she finds that, killing people and certain sounds triggers it back. I 100% agree. It's a ridiculous concept. And there's a lot of
I kind of like the sound of it, though.
It's very ridiculous in terms of some of the murder. The very last murder is just like, it's either going to win you or lose you. That's all I can say about it.
Like, are they being cheeky about it, or?
They're playing it serious.
Okay.
They're playing it serious. The end gets as close to cheeky as I think possible.
Okay.
And maybe a little too close to it. But Alex Neuer wrote and directed this, and you can tell he's a fan of slasher films, because what slasher movies are great about are the kills. The kills are the best part. It's really like, how outlandish are you willing to get? And there's some outlandishness going on. And I really wonder about the crime lab in this city, because I really feel like she should have left so much evidence at so many crime scenes. But regardless, I enjoyed it. And it was, and you also have Lily Simmons is in here as Marie, and she was in a show called Banshee. And it was kind of fun to see her do something different too. But Jasmine Savoy Brown does a great job. I'm really, really impressed with her.
And what do you give Sound of Violence?
I give it 550. I enjoyed it. Like, don't take that, like, I'm going to be like you now. Don't take that as a negative, because it's not negative. It's just like I said, the last kill will either win you or lose you, and that's where it kind of lost me. But it's still pretty kind of cool.
Do you hear that? I hate Aaron B. Peterson.
Oh my God, don't get that guy started again.
He liked it. 550 is good.
I really did. I enjoyed the movie. Yes, I enjoyed it. I would recommend it. Sound of Violence. I'm sure it'll be coming soon. It's going to be one where you're going to want to watch with your friends too. All right. Now we've got Them. Set in this is an Amazon TV series. It's going to be an anthology series where each season, it's already renewed for season 2. Each season is basically one story. So this first story, set in 1953, centers on a black family who moved from North Carolina to an all-white LA neighborhood. The family's idyllic home becomes ground zero, where malevolent forces, next door and otherworldly, threaten to taunt, ravage, and destroy them. And man.
This one does come out on April 9th, so you'll be able to catch it pretty soon, and they're releasing the entire first season on that day. So we saw the first 2 episodes, and I really, really dug it. Like, beyond the performances, because first of all, Deborah Arende, Ashley Thomas, Allison Pill even, Melody Hurd, Shahadi Wright Joseph.
Oh, you just hate Allison Pill in this show.
And that's why I'm saying she is so good at her performance, because you absolutely despise her. Like, I wanted to choke her. I'm not going to lie to you. If I could do some gruesome murders like in Sound of Violence, I probably would. And the family, though, you're getting...
I don't know if you would, though, because even in 1953, I really feel like cops would catch you. That's how it's really, she should be caught. And it's side point.
But this cast is so incredible. And beyond that, I really like the story where not only is the terror and the horror next door to you, it's also somewhere in your neighborhood or in your home. There's something horrible going on. But my absolute favorite part of this series, Them, is the score. Now, I'm a big geek for music and sound in general, and the way that they recreate and distort happy-go-lucky songs that everybody knows, and they distort them to kind of show the horror that's within. Yeah. I thought that was brilliant. I thought that was a great way to do that. Not to mention how timely they are, every single sound with the score, the way that they use it to build the tension. I mean, it's just done perfectly and it sounds incredible. The use of violin to really jab at the chills on your skin. I mean, they really know how to make it work. Overall, I really liked this show. I just couldn't get over the score. I thought it was amazing.
I do wonder what directions they're going to go in. And it seems
after
like...
the first season, you mean?
After the first couple episodes. I'm really confused, like which... Because what you would think would just be I guess coming into it when I was watching, especially after the first episode, I thought it was primarily going to be about racial inequality and basically how they're moving into white neighborhoods and how the white neighbors are going to deal with them in their way, because they're taking over their area, they're bringing their property values down. It's very racist in that respect because that's the time. I thought that was going to be the primary horror. That's what I thought Them meant was, the people in those neighborhoods looking at them as them. We need to get them out, that kind of thing. But there's actually a supernatural element at play here that comes into focus as the show goes on that I didn't expect, which ups the fascination level, which makes it a lot more interesting in terms of, because I feel like I haven't seen this. Like, I don't know where they're going. I don't know what we're doing. So I'm extremely curious as to where we're headed.
There's obviously something grim at play. And they use, one of my favorite cliches is using children to get that across. And they use that here. They use one of the daughters to try to show you that it's not just the horrors on the streets. And when I say these neighbors are awful, they are horribly racist and terrible. And that's not even the worst of what this family has to endure, though. There's so much more going on. And I really hope people check it out. I'm sure they will.
Really, they do a good job of addressing PTSD from what they've dealt with as well, which absolutely I don't think is really covered enough in films and television where they're exploring this topic. So
yeah, no, that's a great point too.
Because both Lucky and Henry are both like really reeling from horrible things that have happened to them.
And you what's funny is that you get a glimpse of it in the first episode. They have all of the pieces there of what's happened in their past.
Give you a little bit in every episode.
But like, it still surprises you when you figure it out. Yeah. I think I can speak for both of us. We were both like, wait, because I know I had to be like, hold on a second. I figured it out upon the second viewing of that first episode. And I was like, oh, I missed that the first time. How dumb of me.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
Plays with time and space. So you'll have some fun with that. So what do you give them?
I gave this one 8.50.
So you loved it.
I really did.
I gave it 7. I really want to see where it goes. I really want to see where this goes.
And our final film is Violet. It's a film about a guiding voice inside our main character's head that's been lying to her about everything. It stars Olivia Munn, Luke Bracey, and Justin Theroux, and also has Jason Dohring in there if you're a Veronica Mars fan for about 2 scenes. He really promoted it like he was weird. Like a real supporting actor in this. So I was like, oh, I got to check it out. And
he's supporting. He's part of the movie. That's what
he is.
And it's written and directed by Justine Bateman.
Yes, and that
Justine Bateman. Yeah.
Yeah. Who also retweeted The Hollywood Outsider. But we both had a deep level of appreciation for this film.
It's my favorite movie of the whole festival. I'm jumping to the awards. I'm just letting you know.
That's fine. That's actually my most unique film is Violet, because the way that they're trying to get across what it's like to be somebody with mental illness, with depression, with anxiety, but also just the impacts of statements and words from years past, the way that her life interactions have affected her for the rest of her life. And I thought it was so brilliantly done, because you actually, and it's a little distracting at first. It was for me. It threw me off. I was like, oh, I was not expecting this. But they basically have like a separate written on the screen, like words and script, what is actually processing through her head when she hears something or she sees something. So what her natural reaction is. And she basically almost has to like retrain and rework her brain, which is how anxiety works, to think differently.
I was a little bit taken aback originally because when you first start watching it, Justine Bateman really goes with a very specific style.
Yeah.
And you've got multiple things happening. You have there's actually color shading to represent when she is losing control, when her anger is getting to the best of her, where the whole screen starts to go red. There is Justin Theroux, who basically represents her inner dialogue, her internal voice. You know, that voice that everybody has where it tells you, don't do that. Don't say that. Don't be that guy. Don't do that thing. You don't want to say that to your boss. All these things
they don't mean that.
Yeah. It's all the internal dialogue that stops us from doing sometimes dumb things and stops us also from being courageous in many respects. And also the words that are written on the screen, which are kind of what she kind of wants to do. It's kind of like detailing her id, if you will, and what she wants to be, like the person she wants to be, and the things she wants to do and say and whatnot. And it's like all these things are going on at once. And I thought at first, I'm like, well, this is jarring. Like, what the? We have too much on screen. We have too much going on.
Yeah.
But we didn't. We don't. We just have to understand how all the pieces fit. And
your brain manages to compartmentalize all of that. So like
it does, yeah. As you go, it really does.
You get used to it.
And once I understood exactly how the movie was playing out, I freaking loved it. I just thought this was so creative and so innovative. And I don't even talk about mental health, but I think this is just how people in general are, and how we're constantly trying to overcome our own preconceived notions and what we think we should be, and how we think we should act, and how much are we willing to take from our boss when they're being horribly negative? How much are we willing to take from our mate? How much do we deserve, and how much should we just not accept? You know, there's so many different variants to a person's component of thought that is factored into this movie, and I've always thought Olivia Munn was fine. She's a fine actress, but I've never really, probably since Newsroom. I mean, I really liked her on Newsroom. I thought she was great on Newsroom, but she's done a lot of other stuff where I just thought it was middling. I didn't necessarily, maybe it was the project, whatever. She's fantastic here. Like, she's freaking amazing.
She is.
I was astonished how good Olivia Munn is in this movie. I was pleasantly, not only just surprised, but kind of disappointed in myself for never seeing that. Like, she has a lot of potential and she could do some great things. And I really, really hope this opens up the doors for her because she was fantastic in this. And I really love the style. I think it's not going to be for everybody because it is very creative. It's very innovative. It's very unique. It's different. A lot of people don't like different. They just want a normal kind of storytelling method. This is not normal, or there's a lot of pieces. And Justin Theroux, we're probably not giving him enough credit. What a great freaking internal dialogue voice.
Yeah.
Because the whole time I'm like, that's what my brain's done 100 times.
Yep.
100 times it stopped me from going after that thing or being that guy that I knew I should have been. You know, I mean, I loved it.
Yeah, it's almost like you get a real representation of what it's like. At least for me, I've always felt like maybe I'm a little crazy for what my internal dialogue says and what it's done. And then this makes you feel like, okay, maybe we're not. Maybe we're all just a little bit weird and this is just the normal. So I really enjoyed it.
Do you agree with me on the Olivia Munn revelation? Yeah?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought she was great.
And Luke Bracey. What a charming guy. Like, it was nice to have an interest, a friend in a movie that doesn't feel fake. Like, he just felt genuine and real and warm. So what do you give Violet?
I gave this one $8.
I gave it $8.50.
Okay. You really, really liked it.
I did. And I don't go high very often, but I went high. All right, now we're going to finish this baby off with our South by Southwest Awards, and we'll try to be real quick about this. But what was your most unique movie you saw?
That was Violet.
Okay. I'm going the Fallout, but actually it's Violet. Because
so you're not.
I'm not. Let's just go Violet. It might be even a clean sweep. I was just trying to give credit for something else. But best new director?
Best new director, I'm going to say, is Justine Bateman.
Same.
It was very creative. And honestly, I think a lot of the credit, I feel like I want to give a lot of the credit for Olivia Munn to her because nobody else has seemed to pull that out of her. Nobody has given her the platform where she rises to that. And she got that opportunity to showcase her actual talents here. And I don't feel like anybody's really given her that opportunity and given her the right role.
And the trick to her performance, I think, is that with everything happening on the screen that's not her actual actions, she's actually reacting to those things.
Yeah.
So there's like facial tics and whatnot that relate to what's happening on the screen. So, I mean, that's what really elevated, I think, her performance. Best overall performance from you from the festival?
That one is going to go to Jenna Ortega from The Fallout.
Why Jenna Ortega? I mean, I agree with you. She did great. She did
nobody else's performance just like drew me in the way hers did. And I don't even know that it was necessarily anything new or different in terms of acting. It was just every time something happened, I felt for her. I wanted to hug her. I wanted to hang out with her. I wanted to comfort her or, be somebody she could scream at if that's what she needed. I just wanted to be present there for her. And so she really drew that out of me.
All right. And mine is Olivia Munn.
Yeah, you really liked that.
I really did. Is it a problem? I think it might be.
What's funny is I don't think this was really on your radar before.
I wasn't really,
because I remember mentioning it.
Yeah,
this was supposed to premiere at last year's South by Southwest.
Pushed back a year,
and they intentionally held it. And at first, I was like, okay, that's ridiculous. Now I get it. Now I feel like, okay, this really did deserve its own chance to really shine. So I respect it.
Yeah, I hope more people find it. So, best film you heard get the most buzz, but you didn't get to see.
So I saw almost everything I wanted to. One that I'm really disappointed I didn't get to see that has gotten good buzz is the Mr. Drover's wife. Mr. Drover's, the Drover's wife.
Mr. Drover's wife.
I have it stuck in my head that it's a person.
It's a job.
The Drover's wife.
The guy who looks lovingly at the sheep. All right. Mine was Potato Dreams of America. It's an autobiographical dark comedy about a gay boy growing up in the Soviet Union, his mail-order bride mother, and their adventurous escape to America. It was written and directed by Wes Hurley. I heard a lot of positive vibes about it and just didn't get a chance to see it. So that one. Kind of bummed, but what are you going to do?
Yeah.
What are you going to do? All right, favorite all-around film. What is yours? I think mine's kind of been said.
Yeah, we know what yours is. Mine was really tough because I was stuck between two films. But there's one that I'm using my tiebreaker as which one I would rewatch the most, and that is Recovery.
Really?
Yes.
That is kind of a surprise, yeah, because you raved about other stuff. But you already want to rewatch that again.
I would watch it a third time. I've watched it 2 times. I watched it like basically back to back in the same day because I was so excited to share that movie with other people. Like I told you about it. I told you that your wife would like it. I told people in, that I know, friends and family, like, yeah, I told my boss about it. Like, you've got to watch this movie when it comes around. I just really enjoyed it. And it's one that I can go back to. And I think part of it is like 2020 into 2021 has been rough for everybody. There hasn't been enough positive vibes, if you will, and laughter and comedy. And that's why I was so obsessed with Schitt's Creek. It gave me happiness. And Recovery gave me that too.
All right. Mine's Violet, but I like that. That's good. That's a good sell. And them, it was probably my favorite episodic, probably.
Yeah.
I would definitely want to see where that goes. And I actually want to see where Cruel Summer goes.
Yeah, you do.
I kind of do. And I'm mad that I do.
I bet you, though, it's going to stop going between the flashbacks so much, though. Because they even toned it down in the second episode. They toned down the flashbacks, I felt like.
I didn't get a second episode.
Well, this is awkward.
Man! Was there more? Did I stop it early?
Did you? Yeah. All of the shows, I think, were 2 episodes.
Or did I watch 2? Maybe I'm...
They don't stop. Just like them, it doesn't stop. It just runs into the next one.
I don't think I saw 2. I think I just saw 1 episode.
Oh.
Ruh-roh. Well, hey, maybe that's why you got a more full review there from Amanda on that one. Oh, my God.
Yeah. Some stuff happens. Yeah.
Okay, well, let's move on from there. You know what? There are a lot of movies to look for, and now I hope you have a few things to keep an eye out for. So you can also go to our website, thehollywoodoutsiders.com. All those movies will be listed by title, so you can find them if you're looking for them later. Keep in mind that a lot of these films don't have a release date yet, so just keep checking IMDb or wherever you go for your movie information for updates. And we'll obviously mention them if we know about them on the show. We'll mention that they're coming out down the road in other episodes. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Amanda, thanks for doing this once again at South by. Hopefully next year we'll be live at Austin.
Oh, yes. Should we admit that we've already booked our hotels?
Shh.
So, we're going.
Well, hopefully. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. But all right, well, be sure to subscribe. Tell your friends about The Hollywood Outsider. And remember that the next time you head to a theater, which are opening finally.
Buy popcorn. Well, you're supposed to say it with me.
Well, you kind of cut me off.
Well, so, I was hoping we would say it together. That's why I waited.
Okay, let's buy popcorn.
It's
hard to get it back once you lose it.
Yeah.